Grid is live. Initiate.
Excellent!
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Bogus.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
My name's Norman Bates.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. I'm Yvonne.
Merry Christmas, movie home! We came, we saw, we kicked his ass.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
Oh, well. Let me go in and say hi.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hi guys, how are you? I hope everyone's well during the quarantine. It's going to be a good day. We're going to be talking Disney attractions. And I know that someone's very, very excited over here in the corner. I'm just going to introduce him. That's Evan. Hi, Evan. How are you?
I'm all right. It is Sunday night. I went to go get Chipotle. I almost got the hiccups from a serrano pepper and the queso. So we're living. We are living our full-on whitest, terrible palate dreams. But we're doing okay. And before we get into all Disney, we're going to make a couple announcements. First, I want to thank Kaiser for being on Family Game Night last night, along with our special guest, Abe Flores. It was a great time. Jackbox is always awesome. I'd recommend you guys go check that out. It's going to be a blast. And then also tomorrow, PJ Campbell Show special. Myself, Abby Friel, and Landon Best, we are doing a Clone Wars Season 7 review. It drops tomorrow morning. I'm so excited. The show finally got great, and I just want to explode on all things Clone Wars because the show has gotten incredible. I know on Tuesday, I'm interviewing.
You skipped Monday night, bro.
I skipped Monday night, which is Simpsons movie to watch on. I noticed it after I clicked it. We're good. Make sure you guys watch The Simpsons with us. Who doesn't love The Simpsons movie? I've seen it, and even I love it. It's great. So watch it with us, because why not? And I'll be interviewing Pat Hogue the following day. I guess he's French-Canadian. I don't know. It's one of the two. We'll find out. So 10 p.m. EST on Tuesday. Check that. It'll be freaking awesome. Wednesday, Something Rotten drops. Pat, you can talk about Something Rotten.
We are going to be talking about The Mummy and The Mummy Returns with Stacey Howard. It'll be myself and Frank Janisch. We're going to be looking back at two of my favorite pulp adventure action films of all time that are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and we're going to reevaluate them and see if they deserve their rotten ratings or not.
Nice. Well, that sounds very exciting. But also that on that Wednesday night, they're doing a Greatest Showman watch-along because Chris Clark decided to rebroadcast the probably best-only soundtracks ever made. I know you and myself are there together. You and I somehow agree on that soundtrack, which who would have thought? But make sure you guys check that out because it is legend. Wait for it. Legendary. So that brings us to Friday night, where we continue our Rian Johnson month, where we will be watching Looper Brothers Bloom on May 8th. For some reason, I was reading up to down and not left to right. So make sure you guys check out Brothers Bloom. I'm really excited. It's my first time seeing it. Be a jolly good old time. And then that kind of reads us off with all that we have to do with updating wise. It's going to be a really great week. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on, and I believe that one of our guests tonight is actually on the Brothers Boom watch along with us, and that is Maxwell Haddad. Hello, Max. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm okay. I'm sitting here wishing this plush Mickey bar was a real Mickey bar and that I wasn't in quarantine, but I'm happy to be here with you fine folks talking about Disney Parks attractions on this gorgeous Sunday evening. I went for a nice little masked, safe stroll through New York today, and the weather was delightful. So yeah. It's probably the best I felt in a while because today's day 50 for me being inside. And when that fact set in, it was like 50 days is a lot of days, but we're here. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this is the best thing that we can do as like a virtual vacation, if you will. We're all hanging out together. We're going to be talking about Disney parks because we all, love Disney. I mean, I know I do. I worked for the company. I worked in the theme parks once upon a time. So there's a lot to break down and talk about. And I'm also joined by Disney theme park enthusiast Teresa Gertie the Dino. How are you?
Yeah. I'm doing well. How are you?
We're happy to have you here. Welcome to the PJ Campbell Network. Are you excited to talk Disney tonight?
I'm very excited. I was supposed to arrive at Walt Disney World on March 17th, and the parks closed on March 16th. So I'm really happy to get some Disney into my life finally.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, and I'm sorry that you dealt with that. I remember you being like, "This is actually happening right now," and how sad you seemed. And now we can actually kind of retro.
Well, I was sad, and I was also kind of annoyed because the 2 weeks earlier, Chance was there, and he had been taunting me about all the things was getting to do that I hadn't gotten a chance to go yet. And then I was like, "I'm finally going to go," and no, it just all fell apart.
I got a great story about that.
Even more.
Yeah, that sounds about right, too. I'm sorry that you were harassed by Chance telling you all the great things that he had going on for himself. But, those things happen. We're also joined from the land down under by our friends, Jacob and Taylor. Hi, guys. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. This is our third day in a row of being on the PJ Campbell network. And I'm very excited.
Don't worry.
Yeah, probably.
Leave it to you to open your mouth and we get kicked off of the PJ Campbell network. That sounds about right.
Yeah, that sums me up.
But I'm really excited to talk Disney today. We were supposed to go to Disney in July because we went in July last year, and that's not looking like that's going to happen.
I don't think we're going to be allowed.
Fine. Much like Max, I wish this pretend Mickey waffle was a real waffle. I do that it's Sunday. I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. But, I grew up 45 minutes outside of Walt Disney World in my entire life. I remember going on middle school and high school field trips all the time, and it was just the best. So I have a huge place on my heart for the Disney parks. I still go as much as I possibly can. So being able to spend some time with all of you, and I've spent some time with theme parks with most of you, so it's going to be a good time tonight.
And just as a little fun note, the three of us on the bottom here have been to a Disney park together.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Well, three of us have been to a Universal park together. I can say that much.
That's erroneous and irrelevant.
And that's what matters.
That's for another show.
That could be another show.
In 2 weeks.
Different expertise in what they love about Disney. But the one thing we also are not going to do, and we decided this out the gate, is we are not going to try to compile this as the top 10 best Disney attractions of all time when this is all said and done, because there's way too many attractions and we're all coming from way too many different places that by the time this night was over, someone's computer was going to be broken and friendships would be ruined forever. So we're just going to take the time to celebrate all of our favorite attractions and spend time talking about them. Because right now, more than anything, we should just be celebrating the stuff that we love instead of work. Good time talking about it. And I'm going to start with Teresa, who's brand new to the channel. After Evan, how about you explain to everyone what's going on?
So here's how this is going to go, guys. We are going to be ranking our movies 10 through 1. And the way how we're going to be doing that is in batches. We'll be starting from 10 through 7, and then we're going to go 6 through 4, and then we're going to do 3 through 2, and then we're going to give our number 1 film. However, if you have a film that you have stated in your list that ends up
attraction.
Sorry, my apologies. An attraction that ends up later in some that isn't in your list and that's later in your list. Say punt, so then we can all talk about it later. So we're not talking about the same attraction over and over again. So we'll be doing that, and then. Yeah, that kind of wraps things up on my end. Just have a silly goose time.
And I kind of feel like since we're on it's a Disney theme, maybe instead of punt, we should do fast pass.
I like that.
I like that. And then also one last thing. Whenever you're talking about your attraction, when you're listening down, feel free to give a brief description and actually go in depth while you're talking about the attraction. So yeah, that's kind of about it.
Outside of that, do we have a Streamlabs, Evan?
We do actually. It's streamlabs.com/the PJ Campbell Network. So make sure you guys check that out, and I will explain later, Tim, why I'm dressed like a paleontologist. It's very important. Paleontologist. So yeah, make sure if you guys would like to donate, it's right there. We put it in the comments. We'll read them out. We'll do some cool stuff with it, and yeah, let's get going.
All right, Teresa. So no pressure or anything.
Yeah.
What is your number 10? You are kicking this off. So, try not to upset everyone in the comments who's watching.
I mean, clearly that's my goal. They don't know me. It's fine. So I was talking earlier before we went on, I had a really tough time coming up with my number 10 because I have a list of about 30 things on here, and I kept trying to narrow it down. What am I going to leave off? But so I think I settled it with the one that would make me super emotional every single time I wrote it, and that is Great Movie Ride in Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Does anyone else have Great Movie Ride? Wow. No one? All right.
Oh, okay, well, now I'm really glad I picked this one. All right, so if anybody hasn't ridden it, great movie ride. It was an opening day attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it essentially was a slow-moving ride kind of through different scenes from, very iconic movies going through the history of cinema. So it had Singing in the Rain, there was Mary Poppins, Casablanca, it had Aliens, it had some like Westerns. But my favorite part of the attraction was the movie montage that they had at the very, very end. Every single time I would watch it, just listening to all the soundtracks and watching these scenes, I would just get tears in my eyes. So I think a lot of us here are big movie fans, so we can relate to that connection that cinema has. And the same kind of thing with the Disney theme parks, it brings you into another world. So for me, this was just a great combination of two things that I love.
No, totally. I adore this ride. Fun fact is I actually haven't been to Disney World since I was 5. And so I literally, one of my very, very vivid memories of that time when I was there was I was afraid to get on the ride, and the cast member actually sat down and talked with me and convinced me to go on while my parents were hanging out waiting for me. And that was the reason I decided to become a cast member, because that memory stayed in my head for so long that a cast member was willingly going out of his way to be you won't be scared. You're going to have a good time. And if it gets creepy or whatever for you, just close your eyes. It was really, really cool. And it plays.
Disney cast members are absolutely the best.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And so I was, that memory has stayed with me for a long time. So for me, it holds a special place in my heart.
I wish I remember who tweeted it, but I follow a bunch of Disney folks on Twitter, and someone is working on a project where they reassemble the montage with brand new 4K footage to put on YouTube.
That's awesome.
I'm going to have to search after this because I agree. The montage every time gave me full spinal chills. It was just such a great celebration of cinema. And the way that they merged the soundtracks and the scores together was beautiful.
Yeah. See, that's one of the rides that I was really upset about, that I never really got a chance to ride it. I think I might have at one point, but I don't remember it. And it's been gone since I had a chance, because MGM and Hollywood Studios was not one that I frequented a lot. Yeah. So I was really disappointed that one wasn't one that I remember more.
Well, it's funny. I think I've only rode this maybe once or twice, but Brian Nussbaum brings up a really great point. I remember when I rode it the one time on my own and maybe with my brother, I was like, all right, we're going on it. The alien part scared the living shit out of me, dude, because it's the closest that you're ever going to get to an alien-esque attraction that...
Well, not quite.
Well, I didn't ride that one. That's a different conversation for a different day. But at least in my time, where I at least was able to that freaks me the hell out. But also the Casablanca scene, I remember when we were going through that one. I never saw Casablanca, but it struck a nerve with me, and I was like, "This is really cool."
Have you still not seen Casablanca?
Have you watched it yet?
No, I have. I ended up watching it in 2016. First time.
Where came out?
I was like, sign off. This is nonsense. Go watch Casablanca.
No. I'm just trying to watch along in Casablanca.
Jacob's the reason I've seen it, but yeah, I get the love for the ride. It is truly something special.
It's a love letter to Hollywood. It really is.
It really is. So we're gonna go ahead and move to.
Teresa's 9.
Yeah,
okay.
Teresa's 9.
So my number 9 is the People Mover.
It's a good one.
I was this close to putting it on my list.
It's my honorable mentions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in my honorable mentions for sure.
Well, for me, I'm all about Disney atmosphere, and how can you get more atmospheric than something that literally it just kind of takes you entirely through one of the lands of Disney, and it kind of talks. I don't even care. It talks about some of the attractions that are there, and I think for people who, if you're new to Disney and you've never been, I think it's good if you got to get a sense of what's around. But it's just nice to just kind of you sit on a little car and you ride through Tomorrowland. It takes you through Space Mountain, which occasionally I know people are on it when the lights are on in Space Mountain, so you can kind of see the tracks. I've never had that happen.
I have a story for a little later.
Cool. But no, I love the People Mover. I'm kind of sad I never got to ride it when it was in Disneyland, but it's still one of my favorites at Walt Disney World.
Bring back the People Mover.
What amazes me so much about I always call it the Tomorrowland Transit Authority.
Yeah.
The real name.
Not only
the real name is Wedway. Come on.
Yeah.
What you're saying about Disney atmosphere is absolutely right, but I'm also consistently astounded by Disney architecture and planning and the logistics of this very simple track ride that goes through many other rides. It goes through Space Mountains. You pass by and you see Mickey's Star Traders. You go around the Carousel of Progress Circle. You can see into Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters. It's just astounding. I prefer the old narration to what they have now. But regardless, it's so relaxing. And I have never once been on it where they didn't let me keep riding if I was just like, hey, can I go again? It's a great ride to just like, and if your feet are barking, it's been a long day, you need a break, hop on. It's beautiful and relaxing.
It's one of the best rides that you can go to towards the end of the day. You know, when you've done everything else in the park, you're tired, you just want to sit down for a little bit, especially because it's getting towards twilight, it's getting a little darker. You go around Tomorrowland, you see all these amazing sights lit up. You see inside Space Mountain, like Teresa was saying, sometimes if you get towards the end of the night, if you go like right before closing, you can see Space Mountain with the lights on. And it's just such an amazing ride. It's not exciting, but it's exactly what you want because you're just, it's not a thrill ride, but it's one of those things where you can sit down and you can see all of this Disney history when you're seeing the mock-up of Epcot. You know, you're seeing all of these things. It's such a fun ride just to relax. You just chill for the rest of your day, and it just kind of just gives you that Zen moment of just sitting back, relaxing, and just chilling through Disney.
Well, especially when you talk about Disney history, so this is an Omnimover attraction, and that was kind of how Walt always pictured in the future people were going to get around with this kind of system. So I think that's another I think that adds on to it is like this is part of Walt's vision, and you know, it's I always have more nostalgia for things that have that touch to them.
True.
Absolutely.
All right, you're 8.
8 is Alice in Wonderland.
It's a good one. I was this close.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm more like hurt that nobody else has these on their list. They're really excited that it means that I'm like getting attention right now.
It's in my honorable mentions.
It was in my honorable mentions too.
It's definitely in my honorable mentions as well.
Yeah, so Alice in Wonderland, it's in Disneyland, and I love it as a dark ride because it's not just an interior one. You know, there's the section of it that also has a track that goes outside. This is one that I try to ride every single time I go. And I love that even with the updates that they've done recently, where they've done some more projections and it's kind of enhanced the ride, it hasn't taken away just from how charming it is. I think of all of the dark rides, look at my list, of all of like the traditional dark rides, it's my favorite one.
Ooh,
I do love that ride. So I have very little complaints that you have it on there at all. It is arguably one of the best dark rides Disney's ever made. The enhancements have only made it better over time. It definitely just makes me feel like I'm in Alice in Wonderland, and I think that's why it's always been so special. Like, I love riding it. Like, the teacups are great, but it's the dark ride that really sells how much I love Alice.
Yeah. One time I was waiting on the queue for Alice in Wonderland, and a couple of the sister wives from the TV show Sister Wives are right in front of us. So that queue was fascinating because listening to them talk was like the best part of my day.
That's incredible. And then, Taylor, Jacob, do you have anything to add to that? You haven't really gotten to talk.
I mean, I haven't been on any of the Disney World rides. And
we haven't been to Disney World, so it's hard to input things into that. But Alice was really close to being on my list because Alice in Wonderland has a really special place in my heart for a lot of reasons. Just as the IP, I grew up with watching that movie a lot more than I feel like a lot of my friends did as a kid. And so getting to go to Disneyland and go on that ride and feel like I was immersed in it was something that was always really special to me. I also love dragging people onto the teacups that never want to go on them with me, so there's also that.
God, I've tried to do that so many times and it just never works.
Did we not go on the teacups, James? I thought we did.
We did not. No, but Teresa will not go into the teacups.
I will not do the teacups. I can't do the spinning. I cannot. Nobody wants that.
All right.
Then 7.
Okay, so number 7. So this is one I know someone else is going to have it higher on their list. So 7, I have Haunted Mansion.
Oh yeah,
Fast.
That is called like the fastest.
Yeah, I was like, I knew it. I know someone else is going to have this finally.
All right, so I'm going to move to Teresa's right as far as how I'm looking at it. So I guess her left. We're going to Max. Max, what is your number 10?
Okay, so I just want to give a little bit of context to how I thought about this. So there are some rides where there are versions in both California and Florida. And so I picked which specific version was my favorite. So at number 10, I have the Disneyland Space Mountain.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
No one else?
Fast pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. So should I move on to number 9?
Yes, go ahead.
So at number 9, I have one I'm confident no one else is going to have on their list, and that is Phantom Manor at Disneyland Paris.
Ooh,
that would be correct, I would believe.
Tied that into I haven't been on it, but I tied that into my haunted.
I
mansion.
want to go so bad.
Wait, what ride?
Phantom Manor.
Phantom Manor.
It's their haunted mansion.
So I have this separated out from Haunted Mansion. I can wait and talk about it when we talk about Haunted Mansion, or I can talk about it now. It's up to you guys.
Do it. I'd say do it now, just because
It's a different ride.
Yeah, it's got a different storyline.
So what I loved about Phantom Manor is pretty much all the other Haunted Mansions around the world are quite similar. And this is similar in some ways, but it's in their Frontierland. And so you get on the ride and the scenes start unfolding themselves, and they're somewhat very similar to the ones you'd experience in Florida or California. But you notice going on that there's a Old West theme to it. And of course, it's delightful that it's in both French and English. So you'll hear the spooky stuff in French and then very quickly in English, because a good preponderance of the people who go to Disneyland Paris come from England, because it's only like a 90-minute train ride. But then at the point in the other Haunted Mansions where you go out the window into the graveyard, here you're actually in an Old West town. And it is absolutely stunning and quite a bit darker and spookier than the other Haunted Mansions. This particular Old West sequence just blew me away. I know they just redid it, and I haven't seen the newest version, but I still fell in love with it when I went on it. And it was just so great to see this classic iconography shifted towards a different storyline. It's a gorgeous ride. And if you ever get the chance to go to Paris, that's the number one there, I think, I would say, is their best ride there.
And it had Vincent Price narration.
It does have Vincent Price. The English is from Vincent Price. Still, even after the recent refurb, they kept Vincent Price.
You don't get rid
of Vincent Price.
No, you don't.
He is not replaceable in the same way, say, NPH might be for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of those things. I'm glad that I really want to go. I actually have a Stitch Phantom Manor pin around here somewhere. I'll have to.
If we're talking briefly about Disneyland Paris, I just want to add there are 2 parks there. There's Disneyland Paris and Disney Studios. Disney Studios is the worst Disney park I've ever been to. I know they're working on it, and it has one other really good ride, which is the Ratatouille ride, which is coming to Epcot. But otherwise, it has like lesser versions of classic attractions from other parks. It's really small. You like enter through a strange mall. We spent like an hour there and then went over to Disneyland Paris because we only had a day there.
I had no idea that Ratatouille was in a separate park than Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just now learning this. I thought it was a Disneyland Paris.
The distance between the 2 parks is the same as like Disneyland
California
and
Adventure.
DCA. They're like right next to each other. So, but that park is it needs some work.
It's fascinating. If none of you have ever watched it, the Imagineering story actually talks
it's
about
so good. I don't remember that part in it.
And they talk about that park, and they're like, "We're not happy with that." They're so ashamed of that park.
To Brian Nussbaum in the comments, Crush Coaster was closed the day we were there, so I didn't get to experience it because it was snowing and cold, and it wasn't. Although they had some roller coasters running, but being in a Disney park while it was actively snowing was so magical.
That would be amazing.
It does not snow in Kissimmee, and it does not snow in Anaheim.
No, definitely it does not.
You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. It's just Kissimmee, not Kissimmee.
I've always called it Kissimmee.
All right,
that's probably the proper Indian word for it, the proper Native American term, but yeah.
What's your 8, Matt?
Okay, my number 8 is this one right here, Expedition Everest.
Fast
pass.
So that leaves you with your 7, sir.
My number 7 is one we may be fast passing, and that is the Hollywood Studios Tower of Terror.
Fast pass.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and head above Maxwell to Taylor Robinson.
All
What is
right.
number 10?
We're going to need a change of ears for this one, guys. This is going to have to be a whole situation because we're going to Star Tours.
Okay, that's called Fast Pass.
Okay,
honorable
good.
mention on that one. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, honorable mention.
Cool. All right. So then my number 9 goes to another one that's these are all probably going to be fast passed right out of me talking about anything. Number 9 is Pirates.
Fast.
Yep. Number 8, Big Thunder Mountain.
Fast.
Okay, perfect. And then number 7 is Radiator Springs.
Fast.
Love that I get to say absolutely nothing. So with that,
I tried really hard. I'm sorry.
That the way that I made my list, I've only been to Disneyland and Anaheim. I have never been to any of the other Disney parks. So my list is very condensed compared to a lot of other people's. I had a lot less to choose from. But it was just easier for my parents when I was a kid just to drive from Arizona to Anaheim to take us to Disneyland. That was their cheapest option of going anywhere. So I grew up being 7 hours away from Disneyland and would just go all the time. So I have a lot of love for the ones that are on my list. I just have a more condensed list than I feel like a lot of other people do.
So
I've picked really good rides. I think that just happened to have them lower than some of us did. But now I'm in the same boat where, my geographical situation put me towards, Walt Disney World things. But I think you picked really fantastic rides. Yep. They're really, really good ones.
Thank you.
I am kind of in the same situation. I live in a country that doesn't have Disneyland. So
get better.
So I've been to Disneyland 3 times in my life. Once I went to Disneyland Tokyo about 15 years ago, and I cannot remember barely any of it.
I'm not
There's a few
I don't know
I
if
can remember.
Not gone or worse to have gone and not remember it. That's hard to
Yeah. And then I've been to Disneyland and California Adventure twice, and that's my Disneyland experience. So I'm probably going to have the same problem.
But I wouldn't call it a problem.
Yeah, we're still going to talk about it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Look,
my number 10 is
any less valid than anyone else's.
Yeah. So my number 10 is Jungle Cruise.
Punt.
Fast.
God damn it.
Honorable mention for me. Yeah.
Yeah. My number 9 is the Matterhorn.
Oh.
Nope.
I have an honorable mention.
No one's got it. Okay.
Jacob coming in hot with the Matterhorn.
It's a good pick, Jacob.
All right, this is exciting. I have only been on this a couple of times because
I think we only went on it once actually, because it was closed down the first time.
The first time I went, it was closed. But I really, really did enjoy this ride. It's a lot of fun. The ricketiness of it at the start is absolute. Like it kind of builds into it, but it makes it so much more exciting just because you're sitting there going, "I'm going to die on a Disneyland ride," and that's fun and that's exciting. And especially coming from us, where here we're a massive theme park capital, and we have huge thrill rides, and Disneyland doesn't really have many thrill rides. They're all attractions that are really they're great thrill rides, but they're not the full blown.
You guys, because you're talking about the Gold Coast in Queensland, and that's definitely more of like a Six Flags kind of like, they're very much roller coaster thrill ride kind of parks. They don't have as many attractions. I would say in terms of like story rides and things like that. So it's definitely more of that here for sure.
Yeah, and that's what Matterhorn speaks to me, because it just reminded me of home. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. This is a ride that would be like where I'm back at home. So that's my number 9. Number 8 is Soaring. I love.
Wait, what version?
Yep. And number 7. Number 7 is Pirates of the Caribbean.
We already passed the hell out of that one. So
yeah, that's it.
Soarin' actually would have been right around the same place for you. We can actually talk about it. Mine's Soarin' over California specifically.
Mine's also California specific.
I would like to talk about Matterhorn a little bit, though.
Yeah,
go for it, James.
Look, Matterhorn is one of those rides. It's one of the first steel roller coasters that you really get in the entire world. It's one of the first ones that did those tubular designs. So yeah, it's very rickety now that you ride it when you're used to some of these smoother rides, but it's so much fun. The first time I went to Disneyland, I was so disappointed because the Matterhorn was closed and I didn't get a chance to do it. So the second time, I definitely got to ride the Matterhorn. I didn't get to ride the Matterhorn with Mickey like you do in That Thing You Do. But, I was so holding out hope for this ride living up to its expectations, and it did for me. I love the history of that ride. I love that there's a basketball court built into the side of the mountain. I love everything about that ride, that it's kind of the precursor to the modern day roller coaster that you get. It's so much fun. It's very janky. If you're used to these smooth riding roller coasters, you're going to get shaken around a lot, but it's still a lot of fun. I really had a great time riding it. I love that ride. It's definitely one of my honorable mentions.
It was in my honorable mentions as well, for sure.
It's quite a fun ride, but as someone who's 6 feet and wide, it really
shakes you a lot. Yeah,
like
it's
the
uncomfortable.
way, much like the Space Mountain in Florida, the way you have to straddle your legs around the person in front of you, it's just, it really hurts a lot.
Hey, depending on the situation, that might be a good time.
Yeah, well, if it's my wife in front of me, fine. But when she's behind me and there's some stranger in front of me, the point is, it's so rickety. It's fun, and the exterior at night is stunning. But
Yes.
it gives me some serious bumps and bruises.
Well, I mean, it's. Oh, sorry, Taylor. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say that there are some comparisons to Space Mountain, but I love that it's one that, depending on if you're on the Tomorrowland side or the Fantasyland side, like you do get two. You have the option of like two different experiences.
Yeah,
it's another one where, like I said, I love any attraction that gives you views of the park that you can't get from any other angle, and that's I think that's one of the magic things about it.
It's also like a cultural icon in so many ways. Just if you lived in Southern California, driving down the freeway, you can see the Matterhorn. Like it sticks out,
the
man.
Matterhorn is like the monument for Disneyland, because the castle isn't very tall compared to Walt Disney World. So the Matterhorn is really like the iconic symbol of Disneyland.
Yeah, when I lived in Hollywood and I would drive to Anaheim, I always knew I was getting close when I saw the Matterhorn.
Yeah. So I mean, I love the attraction. I love the story behind the attraction. It just also, like Max, I'm a wider guy. I'm tall. It's very fucking uncomfortable, and I get hurt every fucking time I ride it now. Like it fucks me up, you guys. I love the attraction to death, but
not the most painful Disney ride. There's one other one that really hurts, but I'm waiting to see if anyone mentions it.
I'm curious which one you're thinking of.
Yeah, now I'm curious because I don't know. So we're gonna go ahead and move to Evan.
So for my number 10, I actually think there's a chance no one else has this, and it's the dinosaur ride over in Animal Kingdom.
No,
I mean, I'll say something. There's a ride that has a very similar layout, almost identically, that I do.
Identical layout.
But I absolutely adore this ride. I think the facts that like this ride was made in the 90s and like the practical effects still hold up, right? Is it 90s for dinosaur?
Late 90s.
Well, I think
it might be early 2000s.
So Countdown to Extinction was the
which was scarier.
And that's the one. I think that's the reason I didn't put on my list, is because I wish I would have gotten to see Countdown to Extinction, which was like the scarier, darker version of the ride. But so I think that was, the park opened in '98, so I'm thinking Dinosaur was early 2000s.
Okay,
but they would have been working on it in the late 90s.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. But the ride still holds up for me. I still get scared riding this ride. I think the Jeep or the Cruiser is still really good. It swings you around. You still feel really immersed in the ride, and also the pre-show, for as cheesy as it is so much stupid fun. I love it to death.
Hello there.
And you got the guy from CSI. I mean, come on.
It's also like at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun, and then the story is really cool too. You're traveling back in time to get this dinosaur for this mission, and it's a great idea for a ride. The ride's really well executed, and I always go out whenever I'm at Animal Kingdom, go check it out. It's also, there's never a line for it. So
we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. We made it. It's a super fun ride. I enjoy it every time I go on.
It is. Yeah.
And I agree. When the T-Rex
it's just a bastard child of what you know could be better.
When the T-Rex roars and they take the photo, it's loud. It rumbles your chest. I have some on-ride photos of that where I'm like,
my nephews are terrified. My younger one, every single time I've taken him and we've ridden, all you can see is like him cowering like in the seat and like my arm over top because I'm just holding his hand and he's like squeezing it so tight.
Who doesn't love a little Felisa Rashad?
Right?
Right?
Points for that.
Yeah, so Dinosaur hits my 10. It's always a
hello.
Someone's making sound.
It's not my cheap ass headphones. I'll tell you
not
that.
Me?
Let's see. We can find out real quick. Sorry, technical difficulties. It's Evan.
It's not me, but it's me.
All right, you're back. You're
Are we
good.
good? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you're
guys. My apologies. But Dinosaur is my 10. I love it to death. My apologies, everyone.
The sound does not agree with you.
That moves me into my number 9, where we have Kilimanjaro Safaris. Actually,
Pass.
yeah, that's fair. But I'm gonna explain the quick story behind the hat. It was really hot.
Pass.
I'm just gonna explain the hat story.
No, you can tell the story when you get to it.
Shame. And then number 8. This is gonna get fast, but Jungle Cruise.
No, we've already said no.
Yeah.
Has anyone else? So who did anyone else have it?
Either Taylor or Jacob. One of them said it.
I said it.
I believe Evan was the one who fast passed it.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
Jungle Cruise is a shit ton of fun. Every single ride is a different experience, from daytime to nighttime to whoever the cast member is who is driving you around. Some of the sculptures look absolutely just ridiculous in all the right ways. You can tell this ride was made day one, and it still has all the charm behind it. And every time you're with your family too, everyone gets different kinds of laughs out of it. Right? Whether you're the little kid or the old grandpa or the old grandma sitting there with the kid, it's always a joyous time. And it's one that I always try and go check out, but it's always 50 minutes, man. So you got to get your fast pass. You got to get in there. Jungle Cruise. It is a hard recommend every time.
Absolutely.
So
the Jungle Cruise is one of those rides that it definitely depends on who your skipper is. And kind of in the past, you had people like Steve Martin that were Jungle Cruise skippers, and you had these amazing people. It definitely depends, and kind of like foreshadowing, the Kilimanjaro Safaris. It depends who your driver is. You have these amazing people, these amazing cast members that have such great interactions with their ride, that they know how to build up the tension. They know how to make the jokes. They know how to make it a better experience for the people that are riding the ride. And I love the Jungle Cruise because of that. It was definitely an honorable mention for me. I wish I could have snuck it into my top 10, but I'm glad somebody did. I was really happy that I heard it.
And
the Jungle Cruise for me, this is one ride that I can very distinctly remember going on in Disneyland Tokyo, because they don't speak in English. It's the entire ride is in Japanese.
No.
So
How do you say the backside of water in Japanese?
And that's when we're watching this ride and hearing all of it in Japanese, and it is still just as hilarious, and it is still just as fun, and
that's incredible.
Works just as well. And that's so when I went on it when we were in Disneyland California, I actually got the jokes and was able to enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. And it just makes me really appreciate Jungle Cruise, because anyone can enjoy it, and it's universal apparently. So
I was gonna say, I'm surprised that our great American humor was not lost on an Australian like yourself.
I think it's interesting, because one of the things that sets Disney parks apart from most other theme parks is how integral the cast members are to the overall experience of the attractions. Even Universal, without Jaws anymore, it's all about the ride itself and not necessarily who you are lucky enough to get. And it's rare that you get someone who's not great. People have bad days, people are going through stuff, but everyone brings their own unique sense of humor, their own personality, their own spin to it. That was the same thing with the Great Movie Ride, which we talked about before. How good or fun your tour guide was enhanced and made each ride different. It was never the same twice.
That's right, Franco.
It's funny. Before I move on, my favorite one so far has been someone who is a part of the Disney College program, and recognizing that they didn't get the internship with Disney, but they're part of the college program, and it was all self-deprecating humor through the whole time, and I have never related to anything more. It's so good. Moving on, my number 7, I'm ready to talk about it later. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Yeah, that would be fast.
Yeah. All right, and goes on to you, PJ.
All right, so this is weird because I actually had to change my list while we were doing it, because
how dare you?
Something got brought up that I forgot existed until it was said, and I was like, oh wait, that definitely needs to be on my list. So unfortunately, my number 10 got knocked, which means that my new number 10 is Captain EO.
Ooh, good pick.
Yeah, so
I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, this was one that I was not leaving off no matter how hard anyone wanted to try. This was going to be on my list because I adore Captain EO to pieces. It is like the original attraction meets show. Everything about it is just like ahead of its time. Francis Ford Coppola directed it. George Lucas produced it. Yes,
Michael Jackson started it.
Yeah, and Michael Jackson stars in it. Yes, he might be problematic now, but this was Michael Jackson.
Not back then.
Yeah, this was Michael Jackson at the height of Michael Jackson in arguably 88. Yeah, and it is like the coolest. It's so much fun. The music is amazing. Like I could watch this forever, and it just brings me so much joy. When Disney brought it back, I kept going to see it over and over and over again because I never wanted it to leave. Like it gives me so much joy every time I watch it. It feels like it takes place in a Star Wars universe, which makes it even better. Like it's a little pocket side of Star Wars that has Michael Jackson singing and dancing with superpowers. It's incredible. The way that it made Tomorrowland's theater move and bump and actually have like practical effects tied into it. It was just next level awesome. And I adore it to pieces for that. It just knocks out Muppet Vision 3D, which has very similar,
that was on my honorable mention list.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad. Well, it's funny. I forgot because you said like Tomorrowland. I was like, oh right, it was there too.
I was like, wait a second, it's in Epcot.
It's in Epcot. Yeah, I love this so much. So actually, I'm on a Disney podcast I co-hosted, and so we did a version of Fuck, Marry, Kill, but we do preserve, refurb, and demolish. And so we decided to do with like extinct attractions. And so one of the ones we did was Captain EO, and everyone else was like, bring it back, but change it or get rid of it. And I'm like, no, you bring back Captain EO exactly as it was. Like you changed nothing about that. It's so good.
When they brought it back to Epcot, I bought a t-shirt, a Captain EO shirt that I wore at least once a week to the point that it was no longer wearable.
That's incredible.
This was just 6 months ago.
I have the little stuffed version of his little companion.
Yeah, we have one too.
Yeah, and it just makes me happy. Like,
wait,
guys,
isn't there a character named Hooter?
Yes, Hooter's the other one.
Under trash cans.
If you guys have never seen Captain EO, I think there's pretty great versions of it that you can actually watch on YouTube. Yeah, Angelica Houston is the villain. It is so good. And again, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and produced by George Lucas. Like, it didn't get more 80s iconic for me personally than Michael Jackson, George Lucas, and Francis Ford Coppola and a little dude named Hooter fighting Angelica Houston. Come on.
It's so perfect. It's delightfully weird and bizarre. And the seats would move, and it was just
that was the very first 3D movie I ever saw.
I would say it was really the precursor to Star Wars.
Yeah, 100%. And Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm always going to love it for that. And I love that when I started making the list and I was like, my number 10, I was talking to Max about it and he goes, you have Captain EO, don't you? Like, he knew. He's like, you have Captain EO. I was like, of course I've got Captain EO.
I'm so glad that you do, because the fact that none of us else, no one else picked it, that it gets into this list. I'm so happy about it.
Well, it just shows the true breadth and uniqueness of the variety of attractions that Disney has.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to shout it out. So I'm glad we got to talk about it a little bit. My number 9, it was the Fast Pass from earlier, I guess, is Soarin' Over California. So
Fast Pass.
You guys have Fast Pass. Great. Then that makes my number 8, Star Tours, The Adventure Continues. Specifically,
honorable mention for me.
All right, so but Fast Pass for Jacob. So that leads me to number 7, and I'm like really bracing that this is probably going to be.
Wait a second, are we doing 7? I thought it was the next group.
8. No, we did
10, 9, 8, 7, right?
7.
Okay. Yeah, we did 7.
Yeah. So my number 7 is Splash Mountain.
Very close.
Fast Pass.
Nope. Fast Pass. Taylor. Okay. All right. So that leads us to James, who's going to start with his 10.
All right. My number 10 is actually the monorail. I'm really happy that nobody else picked this.
I'm glad that you have it on there because I didn't even think about it. That is such
I thought about it, but I did People Mover.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody else would pick it, and the monorail is one of those things that it's one of those rides that you don't really think of as a ride, but it brings you through the entire park, especially at Walt Disney World. It brings you through the Contemporary Resort. It brings you around through the Polynesian.
Epcot.
And yeah, through Epcot. But it's one of those rides that you really, if you wanted to, I've done it before, where you could have a free Disney day and you just go ride the monorail, and you can just ride through, and you can have all these different experiences.
Go get a Dole Whip at the Polynesian.
Absolutely, you can go get a Lapu Lapu. You can have some Dole Whips that's spiked. You can spin around, go through the Contemporary if you want to.
Elizabeth calling you out in the chat saying it's not an attraction, it's transportation.
Excuse me, if you have to wait in line, for something, it's an attraction.
Well, in Disneyland, it is an attraction
Definitely.
because you need a ticket to use it.
That's
true.
true. In Disneyland, it is an attraction.
And definitely, you have to wait in line at Walt Disney World to ride the monorail. I would even say that the ferry boat are definitely considered an attraction just because you have to wait for them.
Are the friendship boats an attraction by this definition?
If you have to wait, it's an attraction.
That was the definition I got. I asked PJ because from one of mine is borderline attraction, but he said if you have to wait for it, and so going with that.
Okay.
The monorail, I don't care where you're going to.
Oh, Brandon. I mean, the tangled bathrooms are kind of an attraction.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
But Brandon, it's kind of funny.
Brandon,
though,
I don't know what turkey legs you've eaten, but definitely you have to wait for a ride. Might be a wait.
But James, it's funny that you bring up the monorail because it reminds me of like being on a cruise ship where you just have that unlimited freedom of kind of going wherever you want with like unlimited. It's just that you feel that freedom whenever you're on the monorail because you can literally do, at least on the Walt Disney World Resort for me, you literally can go anywhere. Like I've explored the Contemporary Resort just because of the monorail. I would have never done that. But because of the monorail, I've got to see
that's the thing I love about the monorail. It's like you definitely it is a ride. I mean, you're having these experiences, but not everybody has the same ones. I've gotten the chance. I've sat up in the very front. You don't get that chance anymore. But you used to have that opportunity where if you asked, you could sit in the front row with the conductor. And I used to get that when I was, in elementary, middle school, but you can't do that anymore.
I remember that
9/11 world.
Yep.
I feel it was so much fun, and now you don't get that same experience. But the monorail is still one of those rides where it's one of those Walt rides. It's one of those things where he envisioned this thing. So it definitely makes my number 10.
I love it. And I love that the chat has like imploded on itself because of it.
I don't give a shit. I don't care about you, chat. It's one of those best rides. I don't care.
God damn it, Vanessa's not wrong. Shit. All right. So what is your
Vanessa, but it was on my. It's also honorable mention. The Disneyland Railroad.
All right, James. What is your number 9?
Number 9. I have a feeling it's gonna get Fast Pass. Splash Mountain.
Yes, that's way more because Taylor had it higher. I remember that.
I had a feeling. All right, number 8, the Indiana Jones Adventure.
Pass.
Yep, I had a feeling. And number 7 is Expedition Everest.
Pass.
Okay.
All right.
I had a feeling. Yeah, it's good.
So that takes us back to Teresa, and Teresa is going to be doing what is it? 6, 5, and 4, Evan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
and after we all do this one, we're going to take a quick short break, and then we'll be right back.
Brandon.
Yes, we did know that, Brandon.
Yes,
I have seen them with my eyes.
We've all been there. There's dinosaurs on the Disneyland Railroad. All right, Teresa. With that,
dinosaurs. Come on. Okay, so
if you went to Disneyland with any one of us, you would know this information. Come on.
All right, so my number 6 is one that I fast passed. So I don't know if anybody else had it higher, but 6 is where I have Soarin' over California.
Nope.
I do not have it higher than that. So I think that means we are good to talk about it.
Okay.
No, mine was I got 5.
Okay.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Soarin'.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about it.
I specifically went with over California because the current Soarin' over the World is kind of a piece of garbage because
correct.
Unless you sit in the back center, it's kind of everything's a little like that. And so much of it is CGI'd that it just it bugs me. I don't care.
Polar bears.
That Taj Mahal looks so awful.
Yeah, exactly. It's the entire Taj Mahal is CGI. It's not.
Yeah, that's really bad.
But no. So Soarin' over California. So much of why I love that, I think, is the score over everything else. It's beautiful, and even the score that's in the queue is a bunch of different themes from different movies. So anytime I hear any of those, I was like, oh, that's in Soarin'. It's great. No, but I love, I saw that before I ever had a chance to actually visit California. And I love all the little touches in it, like all the little Easter eggs that they have. There's hidden Mickeys in there. Michael Eisner is in there. There's a pirate ship.
Yep.
But even outside of that, like I said, it's just beautiful. And I could sit and listen to the score. I could sit and watch that and smell the orange groves at any time. It's relaxing and soothing. Yeah.
You smell the groves at any time.
It's Disney Xanax. That's what's
I have essential oils that are the orange smell from Soarin' that we put around the house.
Yeah, Jerry Goldsmith's score is incredible. Number one, to Brian's point, like it's amazing. And as someone who grew up in California, it's like the most beautiful love letter to the state that I lived in my entire life. And it's also just like a love letter to Disney and Imagineering, and everything about it is just such a beautiful step in like a new direction of things that the Disney parks could do. It was Star Tours on a bigger and different level. Like you were doing something that could really transport a lot of people in one way through this epically beautiful adventure. And I love it for that. Like there's so many little Easter eggs like Teresa was talking about. And it makes me feel good. And who doesn't love Patrick Warburton?
Right?
We stand for Patrick Warburton.
Hello, I'm Patrick, and I'll be your flight attendant today.
Including these little guys.
Yep.
I mean,
it's so funny that you talk about like the difference between Soarin' around the world and Soarin' over California, because I haven't ridden Soarin' over California, sadly. But I can tell you this: the people of Epcot aren't completely happy with it, because even during peak summer. No, because here's the thing: like with Soarin' around the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying Soarin' over California is completely different.
No. I'm saying with Soarin' around the world because even in Epcot, even during peak season, the wait times are going down for that ride. Way down.
They added additional rooms.
Yeah, they added a third theater. So now
that's true. But like I remember at one point it was like 30 minutes peak summer season.
Soarin' over the world is not worth it, but Soarin' over California really is.
So
right, Jacob.
I just think it's funny that that you brought it up.
So I have not actually been on Soarin' over the world. I've only been on Soarin' over California because they changed it back.
Really good. Don't go over the world. Don't do that.
And I remember my first fear walking in was, I just put my feet just dangle. Like I was genuinely terrified when I first got on that ride because there was no harness or anything. And then but I loved it. Soaring over California was absolutely beautiful and amazing. As someone who has not really experienced California, it was absolutely gorgeous, and I loved it. And it is one of my favorite rides at Disneyland.
I was really glad that when we went, it was Soarin' over California for you, because I had the honor of being the one to take him to Disneyland California for the first time. So we went together. And when I saw that it was Soarin' over California, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to take the time and set aside the time to actually do this, because you need to experience it.
It's such a different experience.
I'm so glad that DCA has been reverting back to California every now and then, because they should
good. Keep California in California and make a Florida one for Florida. You could fly over the Everglades. There's so much stuff you can explore.
See, I
go down to the Keys, go over Miami.
You could drive over the Space Center. Come on.
Yeah.
I do
You're
love
listening,
that,
Bob Chapek.
Yeah. I've got some other suggestions for him. It's good.
I think that's another podcast for another time.
I think that
anyone else have Soaring?
No, that was it. The three of us have Soaring.
Yeah.
So that leaves Teresa. Everyone should be tweeting this at Bob. Make sure he sees this podcast to get all of us.
Daddy
Bob.
Oh, he's not the worst. He's not
the worst. But we're just saying, we just want him to listen to our thoughts and ideas.
My bad.
Number 2, Teresa. What is your number 5?
So 5 is one that other people had. I did fast pass this one also. It is Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, that is still a fast pass for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then All right, and then number 4, Big Thunder Mountain.
Fast pass.
Okay.
It's still a fast pass for me. Yeah.
All right. That means we are going over to Max.
Number 6.
Number 6.
So number 6 is Flight of Passage.
Fast pass.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Fast pass.
Okay.
That ride sucks.
Oh.
Okay. I wouldn't say that about anyone else's choice. That's kind of rude.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Feel like I disagree. Is
God damn, James. I thought we were all friends here. All right.
all right. Well, we
Max knows that me and him are good.
Yeah, I thought the whole point of not doing a master list was to obscure that sort of hostility. Yeah. Well, okay.
Hey, James, next time we're all in New York together, you're not coming to brunch with us.
I didn't say that. James is always welcome at brunch. All right. So we're skipping over that. Number 5, I have Radiator Springs Racers.
Fast
pass.
Okay. And number 4, I have Pirates of the Caribbean, specifically the Disneyland version, although the Paris version is a close second.
So that's still a fast pass for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's fast pass for me.
All right. So we toss it up to Taylor.
Okay. So number
Jacob,
6.
sorry.
Number 6, I have Indiana Jones.
That would be a fast pass.
Figured. Number 5, I have California Screamin'. Specifically.
That's a good one.
Nope.
You know what?
No?
Not specifically that one. No.
Okay. You have it as Incredicoaster?
Yeah, I have it in Incredicoaster.
I have it as an honorable
I have
mention.
Incredicoaster also.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, in that case,
All right. Let's go.
So California Screamin' isn't, granted, it's not super different from Incredicoaster, but the branding to me kind of kills it a little bit. As someone who loves The Incredibles as a movie, and I love the characters and I hold it dear to me, I really don't like the rebranding. I really, like, part of me kind of dies a little inside every time they take the California out of California Adventure and shove other things into it. So California Screamin' was a ride that I had to be basically dragged on when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, roller coasters were like the bane of my existence. I didn't like heights, still don't like heights, but I can do roller coasters now. And I remember kind of having to get dragged on it by my aunt, and she got me on it. And then the rest of the day I was like, so this is literally the only thing that exists, and this is all that I want to do forever. And then my parents were like, great, we don't want to do that. But it was kind of the first roller coaster, I guess, that to me as a kid was exciting, because it launches you the heck off. Like, if you better be ready, because you're launching whether you're ready or not. And as a kid, that was so exhilarating and so exciting. And to this day, it still gets me, like, when it just shoots you off. I feel like it's such a fun concept for a roller coaster. It's something that kids can still enjoy, but there's enough of it that adults can really get a kick out of it as well. And yeah, I just think that it's one of the better made thrill rides that they have in those parks.
It is such a great love letter to, like, the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk and, like, that whole area of Northern California. That's why I've always loved the attraction. I worked California Screamin' before it became the Incredicoaster. That was one of the attractions that I worked on. And I loved it, man.
It's better.
I once got stuck on California Screamin' and had to be let out and walk down the back path, and that was scary.
I've definitely been that person who's had to walk those people
that's
down.
kind of a dream.
It's a lot of, it's interesting. It's fun. I love both versions, though. And here's the thing. California Screamin' is great as a love letter to the boardwalk era of, you know, what the Beach Boys used to sing about. Like, that very 60s themed version of what we knew California to be. The Incredicoaster is a great love letter to the Incredibles and what Disney wants California Adventure to be now. But I still prefer California Screamin' personally.
You only say that because Michael G. is right behind your shoulder.
How dare you, number one. But also, a part of it is I worked California Screamin'. And for me, that is always going to be like a memory. I'm going to always be attached to that, and that feeling of hearing Neil Patrick Harris launching people off. Like, there's something about that. So, man, like, so both versions are good, and I'm glad that Taylor got it on the list.
Yeah, I say I can understand preferring this one to the other because I'm one of the things, if anybody knows something about me, it's that I am very anti putting IP into things that was not originally created with that in mind. So the transition from Paradise Pier to Pixar Pier when it's a California theme park, like it gets to me, and I am very opposed to that generally speaking. So I definitely appreciate that.
And that's where a lot of my California Adventure opinions kind of are now. As a kid who went to California Adventure as a California themed park and really loved that kind of idea. And now that it's like, oh, this is Pixar Pier, and it's, this is the Incredicoaster, and this is now Goofy's Flight School instead of Mulholland Madness. And it's like, just a part of me just goes, oh, I get it from a corporate perspective, but I'm dying a little bit.
Yeah. Same way.
The big difference for me between California Screamin' and Incredicoaster is I never used to get nauseous on California Screamin', but the smell of the chocolate chip cookies they pumped through for Jack Jack in Incredicoaster made me so nauseous.
You're not the first person I've heard say that either. So I know that's like a thing that goes around.
I sort of feel like Incredicoaster is a temporary thing and they're going to keep playing around with it.
No, it's really good.
Well, we will talk about Incredicoaster.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Oh, right. Yes. Haunted Mansion.
PJ. What? What'd you say?
Is anyone fast passing Haunted
Is
Mansion?
anyone fast passing?
Yeah, fast pass. Yes.
Fast pass.
I just heard you scream PJ and I got confused. And
I just assumed you were further along.
No, I was looking at the chat and then you screamed at me and I was confused. Now we're good. Jacob, what is your number 6? Now that we're not yelling.
Okay.
James, quit being so fucking hostile.
Excuse me. I apologize.
We just got the beloved talk about something that was before it got rebranded to IP and before it got changed. I never got to ride this ride before it changed. And I'm sure this ride is on everyone else's list as the original. However, I've got it as Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout because that's the one and I love that ride. And it's so much fun. And I know I've never ridden Tower of Terror, and I'm sure Tower of Terror was better, but I still
not the California one.
No,
it is. Yes.
No, California one is better as Guardians.
I agree with Teresa.
Hard disagree.
I'm going to have a hard disagree on that actually as well.
Yeah.
The Florida Tower of Terror was always
Tower of Terror is superior to the California one.
Is anyone using
that I agree with. No,
is anyone
Jacob, you're good. We're all going to be arguing about Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Jesse, shut the fuck up.
So, Guardians of the Galaxy, what I love about it so much is you walk in and it is this entire it is the collector. And I really do love this way of when you walk in, they've actually like set it all up and they give you the story and they give you this mood. And it's just a lot of fun for me. And I really, really enjoy it. And ignorance is bliss. So I'm just that's where I'm going with that.
Here's what I'll say. You're totally right for having it. It's a good ride.
It's a really good pick.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I can't argue with you. And that Rocket Raccoon animatronic is next level Disney magic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
So I like that they kept it that it's different every time you go on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that makes it really fun because it's with the screens, it's easy to change it. They change the song and it just makes it so you get a wide variety of experiences.
Number 5, I have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Does anyone have it higher?
Fast.
That was I got fast for me at 4.
All right. Is Pat the only one to have Star Tours The Adventure Continues?
Nope.
So is anyone fast passing that?
That's an honorable mention for me.
So I am the only other one who has it. So it was just you.
Taylor's also got Star Tours.
I have Star Tours, but it was at 10 and it got fast passed immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So 3 of us can talk about it.
3 of us can talk. Again, I've not done any other Star Tours. This is the only one I did, but I really love this one. And I love like what Maxwell was saying before about how they changed the screens. I love that it's a different screen every time. Like no matter what, you're going to get a different attraction every time. Somehow we actually got the same ride twice. Which
we did.
Which I thought was hilarious. But I love this ride so much. It's just a lot of fun. It's quirky. The entrance really sells it.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a ride that I was hoping that they would keep once they announced Galaxy's Edge was coming. I was a little concerned that maybe it was going to go, but that ride to me has always meant a lot just because I grew up as a Star Wars kid. Like, one of the first things I remember getting as a gift was the box set of the first 3 VHSs. And I've always grown up on that. So going to Disneyland and going on that ride as a kid really felt like I was being immersed in that world. And it was always really special to me. And even as I've grown up, the entrance still just makes me want to stop and have a look at everything they've put into what you get to see as you walk into the actual ride. And then getting to the actual ride and getting that sense of adventure because you don't exactly know what you're going to get is always a great time. And I just think it's something you can sit back and enjoy and just really kind of not have to worry about anything, because I wouldn't specifically say it's a thrill ride or anything you have to be too concerned about. You can just have a good time with it, and I hope that it always actually stays there no matter what happens with Star Wars Land as it is.
Yeah,
Brian is correct. Yeah, Patrick Warburton as the robot in the queue is one of my favorite things in the entire world. Look, Star Tours, The Adventure Continues was like the beautiful baby of what was already a really great attraction. Star Tours means the world to me. It's one of my all-time favorite attractions, period, because I love Star Wars. And what they did to expand the universe and do the choose-your-own-adventure style storytelling that every time you go on it is different made it special, and it's fun. And the way that it feels connected to canon, having so many different actors as their characters in it this time, and like the way that it all plays out with 3PO being involved is just brilliant to me. Like, I love it so much. The 3D is incredible. Michael's score is so incredible. Like, that Giacchino score is just so amazing. He really does John Williams proud by doing something that is such a love letter to his music, but also being its own thing. And it's really exciting. And like, you visit all these different places. I get to go into Coruscant, and like, I remember watching Attack of the Clones as a kid, and that whole sequence that's the chase through Coruscant was exciting, and I wanted to be able to live through that. And now this ride has given me the chance to feel that. Like, there's something to be said about that. Batuu is an entirely different thing that we could talk about, I'm sure, later in this. But like, in all sincerity, like, without Star Tours, Star Wars Land itself and Batuu doesn't exist, and it just deserves a spot.
So a couple of questions for my California people. Where is it located in the park, and does the ride continually update as with the movies come out as well over there?
Yeah, it's in Tomorrowland.
It's Tomorrowland. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's next to Space Mountain in Tomorrowland.
Interesting.
And that's one of the things I like, is that when the sequel trilogy, after each one came out, they were able to very seamlessly, without having to even shut down the ride, put in new planets and new scenes to fit with each film.
Dude, the Last Jedi stuff is so good in it, because you still see the soul, and you're just like, oh, it's just so nice. It's so nice.
Yeah, so they definitely do the updates. It's still in Tomorrowland. Yes, Elizabeth is right that the Batuu ending doesn't work because of where it's at, but at the same time, it makes me happy. Plus, I get to see one of the IG-11 units. So I believe that. Jacob, do you have any more?
No, that was my number 4.
All right. So that makes it Evan's turn.
This could end up being controversial, and I didn't think it would be. Number 6, I have Millennium Falcon's Smuggler's Run.
That's an honorable mentions for me.
Yeah, it's an honorable mention.
So here's my thing. I wrote it when I wrote it when we had the
James, get a hold of yourself.
Jesus. Excuse me. Let's play games with some dignity, James White. God damn. Anyways,
here we are trying to be respectful and friendly, and James is like,
go-getters.
When did James turn into the Joe Pesci of this podcast?
Really? But anyways, I wrote it when we had the previews for the annual pass holders, and I think what I really enjoyed about this was the teamwork and the fact that, like, you could still compete with the people to the left and your right, and the animatronic of what's the pirate's name? I'm blanking.
Which
Hondu?
Hondu.
No, Hondo, not Hondu.
Barbosa.
Hondo.
Hondo, yes, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, the animatronic of Hondo in the freaking queue, and also when you walk up and you see the Millennium Falcon, it's so breathtaking. And then when you actually get into the ride, having like to work it as a team, because me and my dad were having a really like funny time trying to pilot the actual Falcon. We did awfully, but it was still really good. And I think one of the main things about Disney World for me is about family and how you're able to like encapsulate like being with the family and whatnot. I think riding William Falcon's my first one, at least with my dad, and I know when I start riding it with the rest of my family, once parks get reopened or whatever, it's going to be an even better experience. So I love the ride to death. I knew this take was going to come in a little hot, but it's so much fun.
I think it's a fine ride. I think the experience of like walking through the Falcon and then into the cockpit is spectacular. I think the real design flaw in the ride is how it's so much better of an experience for the pilots, and then the engineer and the gunners have so much less to do.
Right.
And I think that sort of makes it, I don't know, not as good as it could have been. I'm not saying it should have been exactly like Star Tours, but I like the idea, like theoretically, of everyone has a different experience, everyone is teaming up, but I think the pilot experience is so much stronger than everyone else's experience that it makes it tough to love the ride. It's fun. It's fine.
It's funny. I get that though, but I remember because I had that same feeling because we did the pilot first, and then I did engineer next, and I still had an equal amount of good
sucks,
time.
James.
and the time I had was equally as good. So I'm glad like that part didn't phase me, but I understand that it does phase people for a fair reason. But like I just generally have a really good time on the ride, and it's also Star Wars, so it's really hard just like walking. You just feel that,
Yeah.
So with that said, at number 5, I have the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Okay, I'm alone.
Just you, fast.
It's the best family coaster I've ever been on. Like bar none. Through the theming, the queue is super interactive. Whenever I take any of my little cousins on this ride, seeing the joy on their faces just exudes their positive energy, and it comes back onto me. And like, I never leave that ride without a smile, even on bad times. Even after I've seen a kid screaming get pulled off board, I still have a good time afterwards. It's absolutely true story. It's absolutely incredible. I think, especially with it being smack dab in Fantasyland too. It's such a good ride, and it does its purpose because Fantasyland is meant for, not for those non-thrill seekers. And I think Seven Dwarfs Mine Train does a really good job of actually appealing to the non-thrill seekers, yet at least giving them that little bit of thrill that you normally wouldn't get through the rest of Fantasyland.
This is the one I mentioned earlier that really hurts me.
Really?
The seats are very narrow, and the T-bar on my large man thighs, I come out with like indentations of the bars. I'll still go on it every time because I think it's a really wonderful ride. I think it is a perfect entry-level coaster, and what I love about it is how it marries that with a really solid dark ride, like the scene when you're inside the mountain and they're getting ready. The use of shadows, the use of projections on the faces, the lighting is great. It's a super fun ride. And the heavier people you have in your car, the more it sways. So that makes it more fun too. But yeah, I've gotten like legit bruises from this ride before.
Wow. Surprising.
I used to be quite a bit heavier. And so the first time I went on it, I was like, gonna need some ice from first aid. But you're also you're tiny, Evan.
Yeah.
I want to add in what the comment that Liz had that I do love when they took out the old Snow White attraction, the dark ride that was in Fantasyland. They moved the animatronics that were in the final scene. Those are now in the final scene of the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which I always appreciate that when they find those touches of like, Disney history to incorporate into replacement attractions. My only issue with that one is just it's too short.
It is short.
It was supposed to be about twice as long, but for budget reasons, it kept getting shorter and shorter. But it was the original concept.
It sounds like Little Mermaid.
It is a visually beautiful center point for New Fantasyland.
It's very striking.
So yeah, that's my 5. I actually thought when I was making this list it'd be a little higher, but I get why not, especially when you have so many good picks. So nothing to be mad at. And 4 is Haunted Mansion, but I'm not even gonna
fast pass.
Yeah.
All right, I guess.
So PJ, wrap us out before we had to break.
No, James.
No, still got Still got James on as well.
Yeah, jeez.
He just got up and left.
Yeah.
I know.
His anger is really getting the better of him.
He also didn't tell us. He just wandered off.
I know.
Normally, you at least tell the people that you're with that you're wandering off, but apparently not. James. I guess.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to show this guy again because he's so cute.
So my number 6 is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
I have it higher. Yeah, Fast Pass.
Pass. All right, which makes my number 5 Radiator Springs Racers.
Fast Pass.
Okay, and my number 4 Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Hell yeah!
I have an honorable mention for that one.
Yeah, it's an honorable mention for me too. But
all right, so I'm popping off on this. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is the best Fantasyland dark ride. It is the only attraction in Disneyland where you can go to hell and back.
True.
It's amazing.
Although James kind of thinks that's what happens on Flight of Passage, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is like a beautiful blend of the dark ride elements and like the way that it's been updated just very slightly over time using even just lighting effects that they've incorporated, enhanced it with, or shadow work. It's just bug nuts and fun, and it really exudes everything I love about that old cartoon. Like that older cartoon double feature of Mr. Toad and Ichabod and Mr. Crane was one of the most watched movies I owned as a child, and it really just captures that spirit and that magic of Mr. Toad being this zany weird dude who's basically like Mr. Magoo is a frog. He shouldn't be driving. And it makes me so happy. And you go to hell and you go through a pie shop and you drink and drive, which you should never do. Kids don't drink and drive, but the ride allows you to do these things that you would not normally do. It is not a Disneyland appropriate ride, and yet it is smack dab in the middle of Fantasyland, and I love everything about it. It makes me so happy, and it definitely belonged on my list.
It terrified me as a child so much.
It's a great ride. When they got rid of it from Disney World, I was really upset. And I'm glad it still lives on in California. Mm-hmm. But I agree, the fact that it's a Fantasyland dark ride where you go to hell and back is delightful in every way.
Yeah.
Look.
Wow.
Let's give him a round of applause, everyone.
We joined the party.
You can't hear us with your headphones in.
There it is. Look at that.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
You missed your turn, James.
I'm sorry. I had to go.
You had to fast pass your entire podcast experience.
We got
what is
all my stuff got essentially all my stuff got fast passed except my number 4, which was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. So now it's your turn, James. Get off your phone or whatever you're doing and go to your number 6.
All right. So number 6 was Pirates. I'm assuming that getting fast pass.
Fast pass.
Yep. Fast pass.
Yep.
All right. Number 5 is Haunted Mansion. I'm assuming that's
fast pass.
Fast pass.
And number 4, the Kilimanjaro Safari.
All right, so this was the way fast pass from earlier, I believe. So this is
Yeah. All right, so Evan and James talking about it.
Number 4?
Yeah.
Same. Okay.
Well, I was all the way at like 9, but like yeah.
Okay, I knew you were a little bit further back, but I didn't know. Okay, look, the Kilimanjaro for the Safari is.
Is that English?
Probably not.
Go ahead, PJ. Go ahead.
Kilimanjaro Safari. I've never even ridden it.
Seriously. Oh.
Come on, lay it out for us, James.
No. The Safari is one of those things that it doesn't matter when you ride it. It's always going to be different because it's such a different ride. It's going to be changing depending when you ride this ride. If you ride it in the morning, if you ride it in the evening, if you ride it at WMGM, I love tigers. I love hippos. I love, elephants. It doesn't matter when you ride this ride. You're going to have a different experience to when you ride it versus something else. I love it.
Are you crying?
All right.
Yeah, I could be.
So,
no,
it's sweet.
So I have two different stories here with this ride.
Did we finally
The
get to
first
hear about the
being
hat?
I know one has to do with
Yes.
the hat.
I'm so
The one-
excited.
So I
I'm
got this
changing it.
hat.
Yeah.
I got this hat in Animal Kingdom. It says specifically property of Walt Disney World. And also like on it, you can't really see it, but there's a checklist of all the 4 parks on it. And it says
cool.
authentic, do not remove, which I think is funny. It was really hot. If you know anything about Animal Kingdom, it's probably the most humid park there, just due to all the moisture and
so
everything. It's easily, I think, the hottest park, personally. So I needed something. Little Evan needed something. And right after we got that hat, I rode Kilimanjaro Safaris. And it's such a pleasant experience, man. It's probably the most educational Disney ride too. It's hard for me to come up with anything else.
Living with the land.
Yeah.
Universe of energy.
Oh well, rest in peace.
At most educational.
But
Fuck Ellen.
but the point stands. But this was also, I was there at the parks March 16th, the last day it was open. And that was my last ride. I was trying to think back.
Wait
and it was
a second.
actually
What do you mean the last day it was open then?
Blue before the parks got closed. I was there the last day before it opened.
Before quarantine.
Excuse me, before quarantine, but it's changed a lot. You know, it's not like it's the one time that I had that opening.
No, but I'm saying like before all this was happening. So
before the dark time.
Before the dark time. So it was really weird. So I got off the ride, and my family and I, we were about to leave, and everybody was clapping because all the workers were recognizing this could be their last day for a long time. It was this really eerie moment, to be honest, because you wanted to clap for these workers, but it was so like you sat there and you realized these people aren't going to have their jobs. And it was I walked away. My family's like, "Why do you have a tear down your face?" And I was like, "Do you not realize these people are clapping not only out of joy, but for the facts like they're congratulating themselves that they're gone." And it was really weird, really eerie. It's always weird just going back to that memory, which I know it happened really, really soon, but like it's just one of those moments that I think personally will go down in Disney history where like the park closed, but not for a reason anyone would ever expect it to. So yeah, that's my little story.
So weird since closing, you know, a different ride than what you would expect them to, I'm sure that somebody else has a ride that's more recent than this.
What?
What's
What are you talking about?
Sorry?
We're having a hard time following your line of thought, James.
Yeah, James, what's happening?
Can you clarify?
I'm really worried about you, James. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
All right.
Was that your number 4?
That was what, 5?
All right, then what's your 4?
No, that was earlier than that. That was 7.
What?
So what number did you have Kilimanjaro Safari?
Yeah, Kilimanjaro Safari was 7.
I'm so.
What just happened?
No.
All right.
What's your 6 then, James?
That was Pirates.
All right, what's your 5?
Right. Pass it.
Pirates was Animation.
All right, and then what's your 4?
That was Safari.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good.
Okay.
All right. And with that, guys, we will be going to commercial break. It's going to be about 5 to 6 minutes.
Yay.
Take your time. If you're watching on the stream, take a little pee, whatever you got to do. And we'll see you on the other side talking about our top 3 Disney attractions of all time. See you later. So like the song is definitely a staple of society, and like it's so hard not to dance to because it's da 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 da, and it keeps getting faster and faster and faster. It does a really good job of speeding up the tempo while it's not getting like out of control. And because of that perfect balance, it's easily rocking. Like, how do you not want to sing that song over and over again? The word in itself also just so much fun. Easy rocking, easy.
Like I agree with you. There are 3 songs from this soundtrack. Yeah, I think that that people will always that they will be at least in their top 20 of Disney songs of all times. Spoonful of Sugar, and then Super Cal. This song, I remember being little and watching this and being like, Mom, she made up a word. And my mom was like, all words are made up. And I'm like, oh, really? It blew my mind.
I think Netflix is just baked into people that I have Netflix. They drop Peacock, or they drop HBO Max, or they drop Disney, because Disney is or they drop HBO Max because it's $15. $15 is a lot. I know, and Netflix is also a lot of money right now, but
I think it's the same price as Netflix. It's the same price. But
they've had Netflix for 5, 7, 6, 7 years. That they're not I have Tiger King proved to me that no, I think Netflix is here to stay, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
I would agree with you I also didn't think they were bleeding money, and they keep looking for the next thing that doesn't take off. I mean, look at how much money they pour into shows that no one watches, and then they cancel them after a season. And that's not just normal network television. I mean, these are things that I've never heard of, and half the time I see that something's been canceled, I go, I didn't even know that existed, because they are terrible at marketing their own stuff.
What's funny about that too is one of their most popular shows, 13 Reasons Why, is arguably one of the most problematic shows
right
that airs, which that's a whole different conversation, but the matter of fact is it's controversial, and it's hard to get past that.
But people watch it. It's controversial, but people watch it.
People watch it, but controversial content only lasts so long.
So Mike K brings up a really good point. He says, what about Amazon Prime? And here's my read on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime is something great for people who are using Amazon to order things. And it comes as a kind of a package deal with other stuff. So people will probably...
So that was when I started going to the movies alone, and just really that was me getting hyped for film school, but it was also me just taking it and making it a personal experience, because I had always gone with friends or made it a whole thing. You can ask my high school friends, I always took a big group to Suicide Squad and Civil War and stuff, and that's the whole thing. But
could you imagine taking a big group of people, going into Suicide Squad, everyone likes it, but you're the only person who doesn't?
No, it's Suicide Squad, I was in denial. I knew it was a bad film from the second, I heard, the 3 songs that had played in the first 2 minutes. But, I just remember just the 21 Pilots song playing at the end of the credits and being Heathens, and being oh, okay, we're gonna take that in, and then we'll come to terms with that later, but it was still a good time.
It's a good time. Yeah, I remember, because I watched with my friend who's now a filmmaker, and he loved it. He loves everything DCU. I can't wrap my head around that. But he loved the movie, and I came out of it, I'm like, this is fun, but dude, this isn't good. And we had, I think, a 45-minute argument about it on the way home. Not the right thing to do. Don't argue about movies with your friends, guys. It's not worth it. It's really not. It never ends well.
No.
So then you decide you go to film school. At what point was this?
This was, I knew I wanted to do some type of entertainment from freshman year on. At freshman year, it was going to be in some type of broadcasting. I wanted to be the next Erin Andrews. She's definitely a hero of mine. But then it's transitioned, especially in 2015.
And we are back.
Hello.
PJ, you ready for our top 3?
I am.
All right. Well, it starts
Below me.
Yeah, right here.
With Teresa?
With Teresa.
All right. Hold on.
We're doing 3 and then our second.
Okay, so I know my number 3, I feel pretty confident no one else is going to have. So it is the 1983, the original Journey into Imagination.
Oh, dang. That is a deep cut.
It's going back.
I like that. Okay.
Dreamfinder.
Yeah, let's talk about
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's with the Dreamfinder. So if you have written Journey into Imagination since like 1998 or so, there's been 3 versions total, but the original one ended in 1998. So you'll have a version now that has Figment as this really kind of like pestering everybody, and he kind of makes them seem like he's just this annoying creature, and it doesn't really get into much about the imagination whatsoever. So it hurts me a little bit. So this is why I go back to one of my favorite attractions of all time is the original 1983 one, which is just so inspiring, I think, for a little kid. As you go through the attraction, each area of it is kind of based on a different genre and a different thing that, just people are coming up with. There's some about art and music, and there's a thriller scene, the thriller genre. I loved it. And it's got the One Little Spark song, which is written by the Sherman Brothers. And I mean, you can't go wrong with that. But no, so the original Journey into Imagination, and really just the entire Imagination Pavilion in general, because that's also where Captain EO was back in the 80s at Epcot. It's also where they had the Rainbow Tunnel, which I think is one of the most iconic.
I love the Rainbow Tunnel
of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really sad when they took Dreamfinder out. I was glad that Figment has now kind of become an unofficial icon of Epcot, and so he's everywhere. So I feel like I know there's another Imagination Pavilion, like a redo is going to be coming down the line, and I would hate for them to take Figment out again. But if they do, at least he's everywhere else, and I don't like the current version of him anyway.
Yeah, Figment's become like super popular within the fandom.
Yeah,
I have a hard time believing that they'd do something like that, but who knows? I mean,
Well, and for me, this is part of why I get so frustrated that they only seem to want to make attractions now with IP or put, existing characters into other attractions. Because here's one that was created. It's a theme park specific character who is still around, 30, I forget, I can't do math right now, but, still around over 35 years later that people just adore and love. So I get frustrated when Disney doesn't realize, that works. You can create characters for these parks that people will still relate to and identify with. Let's do more of that.
Right. Absolutely.
It's really hard.
Figment is in Guardians. He is in one of the boxes in the in the queue area.
It's gonna be hard reimagining because Epcot, from everything I'm understanding, reading like theme park news and whatnot, it won't be reopening with the rest of the parks if they decide to do that half cap reopen, because I think they really want to try and speed up this process of getting it redeveloped and whatnot. I think if anything, Figment actually ends up getting expanded. The whole idea of Figment and with the merchandise and whatnot, especially with the idea of how they're trying to like the more pavilions and broader ideas and themes, which gets me really excited because I love the ride now and I wish I could have rode it even though I wasn't born yet.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh. Okay, that part hurts a little bit. Like I said, I think. Yeah, it's going to be, this is going to be definitely a different episode that I can talk about a lot, is what's coming up for Epcot. But so I know for a long time there was talk that Imagination was going to get turned into an Inside Out attraction, which I think makes sense. And Figment also is in Inside Out very briefly. So I'm like, there's a connection there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of plans that were in development for all of the theme parks that we will see scaling back or completely cut because of the financial situation they'll be in.
Yeah, and this is a long shot prediction, but I have a theory that like give it like 4 years nearly, I think Epcot might become the best park in Orlando. But that's a hot tea.
Well, if they got to do all the plans they were going to, like everything they announced at D23, I would agree. But I think it's going to get the short end of the stick to kind of rush things through for the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World.
I know.
Well, it's also not to be too much of a downer, going to be interesting to see if the economic impact they're facing right now will have to make them adjust any of their plans for things they're working on.
Yeah,
certainly like the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster will come through. I expect the Mary Poppins and the Moana attractions, but maybe they're...
I would only guarantee anything. The only things that are guaranteed are the ones that are already partially created.
Like I don't think the Tron cycles,
Yeah, well, I can say this. The last time I was there, which I would have been the 15th, 14th, there was a lot still closed off. So they're working. I think they're actually working on a lot more than I think meets the eye, which is awesome. I just really hope it gets done at some point because those planes were fantastic. So you're 2.
Oh, and then my 2 is Florida's Tower of Terror.
Anyone have it higher?
I know it got jumped a lot.
I had it lower. I was waiting to talk about it. I don't have a higher.
All right.
All right.
So let's do this.
Let's go.
Okay. So, and I did Florida specific because it is a very different attraction than the one in California, because California is just straight up and down, and the one in Florida, it was one of the very first trackless rides, because basically when it goes from like the first elevator shaft, it moves forward into the second area. That was one of the first times Disney tried to do this trackless attraction, which has become really big in the Asian parks, and what the Ratatouille ride is going to be. I just love the ride because it's fun. Like, let's talk about, like, it's just a really fun ride. I love the music and that whole surrounding area of, like the 40s music. It just really gets you into the atmosphere before you go into it. And I was reading about it the other day when they were kind of developing, Hollywood or MGM Studios, when it opened, was really built as being a half-day park. It wasn't intended for people to spend their entire day there. So then they wanted to start expanding Tower of Terror. It kind of became that flagship attraction of, this is how we're going to get people here, to stay, to expand their day and turn it into a full-day park. And so it's just, I love it so much. I will ride it every single time I go. I will ride it multiple times. I could talk endlessly about how much I love this ride.
Yeah, I agree. This ride is spectacular. It's really a full experience from the minute you lay eyes on it walking down the boulevard, and then you go in the queue and outside and it's misting, and then you come into the lobby and it's dusty, and then the pre-show, the theming from top to bottom is spectacular. I love that there, like so many other things you talked about, are variations in the drop sequence you get. There aren't big video panels like they added into Guardians, but it's still such a great experience. And of course, when the doors open up and you can see out, it's just so much fun, so thrilling. And like normally, like when I go to other non-Disney theme parks, I have no interest in drop rides that just lift you and drop you. Like that would be very low on my list of things to experience, but the theming and design and the music and amazing how they like perfectly edited Rod Serling old footage into making it seem like he was actually recording about this specific ride. It's just awesome. And so much great merch.
Oh, totally. I mean, look, I know for you,
without being like, you don't have to be a huge Twilight Zone fan, but like if you know anything about any of the shows, like you'll find something you recognize in there from one of the episodes, and I find different things every single time. Like I think one of my last trips, I finally saw where the the puppet, I can't think of the word for it, but like the one that talks back and kind of like, it's the terrifying puppet, like that you stick your hand in, and
yeah.
That one I can't remember. Like I don't, but yeah, I'm like,
like a ventriloquist dummy.
Ventriloquist dummy. Thank you. Yes, words. But no, I finally saw it for the first time. I was like, oh, that is terrifying to like look around your shoulder, and there it is.
No, I mean, I know that I had the California version just because, unfortunately, I've only had that one, but I still prefer it.
Version is higher on someone's list.
Is it?
It's on your list.
Yeah, I still haven't talked about it yet.
Never mind then. We'll talk about it later.
Sorry.
The only other thing I'd say is the one in Paris is really disappointing.
It's funny. The Orlando one holds a special place in my heart because like my dad isn't a big ride guy. He is, but he isn't. Like you have to like get him on certain rides, and Tower of Terror is one of them. He doesn't laugh a lot, but like you don't get that great joy out of him all the time. But every freaking time we ride Tower of Terror, I have never seen that man glow so hard. It's because it's just so. And we were also talking about where you get like different views of different parks from different rides. Tower of Terror is one of them.
Oh yeah,
where you see all of just Disney World laid out in front of you. And it's just so gorgeous and so beautiful, but that also takes away that, like, we're talking about cast members and stuff. Cast members absolutely do their role here.
Oh yeah,
the ambiance and getting you in the mood to ride the Tower of Terror. It's just so freaking cool. That's why it was my 7. It's just so much fun, man.
I also love the like cheesy ad they have for it on the highway where the little thing's going up and down. And of course, the classic Steve Guttenberg film.
Yes. The Disney Channel original movie with Kirsten Dunst.
Yes.
That's true. That's true. All right. So we go over to Max.
Okay, so my number 3 is Rise of the Resistance. I don't know if anyone else here has been on it.
I would have been in March.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a fast pass.
Okay, fine.
And what is your 2?
My number
I was
two.
just sitting here waiting on that, but Evan's not paying attention.
My number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye.
That is a fast pass as well.
Okay.
So that goes up to Taylor.
All right. So my number 3 is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in California. So now we can talk about that unless anyone else.
No, I think we're good now.
Okay. So this ride really meant a lot to me when it was in the parks. It was another ride that I had to be dragged on, and then once I got pulled on it, like I just never got off of it. And I just always loved the concept of it. And it was just something so different than I had ever seen in terms of theming of a park ride like that before. And it just felt so immersive to me. And you felt how creepy and eerie it kind of was to go into that situation. And they really set that up for you to have that kind of mood and that kind of tone. With the way that it is now as Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a lot of fun, but they're trying to set a completely different tone for you. They don't want you to go in feeling like it's eerie and creepy and like it's supposed to be a tower of terror. They want you to go in and have fun with the Guardians, and they want it to be a fun time, which is great. It's a great experience that way. But I personally liked it when it was, no, we want you to be creeped out by this. We want this to be a situation where you're not exactly sure what part of the Twilight Zone you're about to get zapped into. And I just always kind of preferred that mood to it. And I will also bring up the fact that the merch is a hell of a lot better for the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. I always wanted to buy everything in the entire shop when it was the Tower of Terror. Now I just walk straight out and go, I don't really care.
This was my favorite attraction for the longest time because I love the Twilight Zone. Like that, this is the thing I've wanted to talk about for so long is I just love the Twilight Zone. And to Max's point, the idea of taking Rod Serling and recreating him for this is ridiculous. Like it works. It's so seamless, and you really feel like you're a part of that universe in that show. Like it is so creepy, it's so intoxicating, the way you feel as you walk up, the way you feel as you go in, the cast members changing as you go deeper into the hotel. Like the cast members outside are a lot less solemn and eerie, and the deeper into the ride you go, the creepier they become, the more unhinged they become. Like it's a fully immersive experience from point A to point B until you get off. It just is so incredible, and it makes me so happy. I really want to go on the Walt Disney World one just because I want to feel the tracklessness of it.
Oh, you will, PJ. Don't worry.
Okay, good, because that's like
as soon as we possibly can, we're going to Disney World together.
Oh yeah, we're making it happen one way or another. I can't wait to go. But yeah, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is one of the all-time greats. I'm glad that Taylor and I and Maxwell, everyone here had Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in some form, it seemed, except for Evan. No, you had it at 7, huh?
Yeah, he had it lower because we all had it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right. Taylor, what is your number 2?
All right. My number 2 is Space Mountain in California. Does anyone have it higher?
No.
Higher? No. I had it at 10.
Okay. Are we all going to talk about it?
Yep.
Yes.
Sweet. Yeah, Space Mountain is, I think, one of the things I look forward to most when I know we're going to go back to Disneyland. I kind of prefer it when it's Space Mountain. Hyperspace Mountain's fun. I didn't really like when they did. Okay, so here's the thing. My favorite time to go to Disneyland is Halloween because I love the branding for Halloween. But I really don't enjoy Space Mountain when they rebrand it for Halloween. That's the only That's the only ride in the park that I don't like being rebranded for Halloween because of the way that they do it, which is really disappointing because everything else I love. But Space Mountain, I think, to me, really works because it's another one that feels really immersive. It feels like even though all they've really done is turn the lights off, it's such a simple thing, but it does so much for your experience because no way that the track they have in there and the ride that it actually is nearly as much fun or as exhilarating if you could see what the hell was going on. I've been in there once when the lights were on, and it's not great. It's actually kind of like I was not about it. It's like I'm actually a little nope, we're not going to think about this. But it's just always been one of those rides that even when I was a little kid and roller coasters were hard for me, it helped because I couldn't see my doom that I was about to walk into. It was like, all right, we're going to go on this ride. I don't have the time to worry about what I see happening in front of me. So we're just going to have fun with it. The one gripe that I have always had about this ride is because you're completely in the dark, when they take your photograph, you're like, I'm blind for 12 hours afterwards.
Yeah, accurate.
No, I didn't have this on my list, but I definitely think the Disneyland one is so superior to the Disney World. I think it's mostly because of the cars themselves. Because the Florida one is just really painful because it is the single, the single row. I think having the double seats helps it a lot. The only reason that this didn't make my list is just being more of a Florida regular. I associate Space Mountain so much with the Florida version. So I don't have as close ties to the Disneyland one, but I do. I definitely prefer that to the Florida one.
Yeah, and to your point, I haven't ridden the California one. From what I've read on it, it's objectively a better coaster. Like, it's faster. Apparently it's a lot smoother. It doesn't whip you around as much. And also you have the music that's blasting in your ears. I wish for that experience. But also it is my favorite mountain out in Magic Kingdom. I think it's the most immersive in my eyes. And I honestly do like the bobsled because it adds to that really like high tension. You're in the dark and you're dropping up and down. And it makes it more intense than it really should be. So it's my favorite mountain for that reason. But I really need to get in one in Anaheim.
your back can handle it.
Yeah. I had the Disneyland one on my list. I definitely think it's superior. The speakers in the cars. I think the effects throughout the track of the stars are stronger. It's smoother. I do like in the Florida version where you go over the hill and you can see if the timing is right, the TTA come by. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely unique aspects to it. The Paris one has been permanently Hyperspace Mountain since 2017. It starts outside on a launch and goes upside down. So it's a very different ride. But a couple years ago, Elizabeth and I were in Florida riding Space Mountain. The lights came on while we're on the track. They had to pull the emergency brake. And I guess throughout the ride, there are emergency platforms where when they pull the brakes, the cars are supposed to line up and then the cast member can come and get you off. I was sitting in the last seat of the car, and the car missed the track by about, 6 to 8 inches. So the fire department had to come. They had to put harnesses on us, unlatch it, help us out one by one. It was quite a thrilling and scary experience because we would see everyone else in the ride who had made the proper points just getting off and walking. Meanwhile, we're sitting here waiting for Reedy Creek Fire Department to come, having to put on the harnesses. And of course, because I was in the last car, I had the most precarious. I was like, I can just jump. I'll be fine. They're like, not on our watch. So, so the Space Mountain, just for that reason alone, will always have a special place in my heart. You haven't done Disney until you've had to be harnessed off a ride by the fire department.
Not wrong. I have not had that experience, apparently. Yeah. Though. So, there we go. I do love Space Mountain, though. It is a lot of fun.
I'm glad that you agree with me, Pat, though, that the Halloween version is inferior to everything else because it actually drives me crazy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Ghost Galaxy. I like Hyperspace Mountain a ton, actually. If they left it Hyperspace Mountain year round, I'd be totally cool because I love Star Wars.
Yeah. Go to Paris.
Yeah, apparently I need to go to Paris. But I don't know, Ghost Galaxy, in my opinion, feels like Disney trying to get on the bandwagon of, look, we can be spooky too. But then it's not, it just doesn't really work. It's like, oh, great, now it's completely black and you have jump scares. Congratulations, you're PG-13 Sam Raimi horror film. I don't know. It's just a weird thing for them to do, and I don't necessarily love it. That's just me. So, Taylor, that was your number 2.
Yes.
So that means we go over to Jacob.
My number 3 is Radiator Spring Races. I thoroughly enjoyed this ride, even as someone who's not the biggest Cars fan. This ride really just is a technical marvel, and the entire setting up the beginning and going through the entire story of Cars and then getting to the race at the end, it's just so incredibly well done that you actually get more of an appreciation for the Cars movies by going on this ride. It's just really incredibly well done, and I just thoroughly enjoy that entire ride from start to finish.
Yeah, I had this one a little bit lower on my list, but I was actually there when the land was opening. Like, we were there within a couple of days, and I rode Radiator Springs Racers pretty early on to when it had opened. I think it was like opening weekend or the weekend after, something insane like that, where we were like, great, we didn't plan for this, so this is going to be a great time. But I remember the first time I rode it, we legitimately got fast passes, but then we had to wait in line for like 4 hours or 5, like something really dumb like that to ride it. But bless you, we got a pretty big appreciation during that experience, though, for the queue, because it's pretty cool the way that they have everything decorated when you are standing there waiting, going along. Like, every little bit has something interesting, which I thought was really cool. But I do love this ride a lot. I think, once again, it has that storytelling element that Disney is able to do really well a lot of the time. It's really gorgeous when you're going through the story and actually seeing all the characters. And it's very immersive in that way. But then you also get the thrill at the end where you are getting to race the other car that actually has other people in it on the ride next to you, which I think is such a cool concept. And it's also great because when you are racing, you get a really cool view of that land and the red rocks and everything that reminds me of home, basically. I walk into Cars Land and feel like, oh, I'm back in Arizona. Sweet.
Okay.
No, go.
I want to say, just talking about, I love, when it first starts, just that big reveal when you're kind of like, are entering the first part of the ride, and then there's the waterfall. I think of so many of the attractions that are there, this one just feels so cinematic, even just the entire area. Like, it's one that really puts you, again, I'm not a fan of people putting IP into places where I don't think make sense. And I don't necessarily know if I like Cars Land in a California park, but I love it's so immersive, and it really does make you feel like you're a part of Radiator Springs. And like, if this was a place where people actually walking around, this is what it would feel like.
Yeah, I think it's pretty spectacular. I had it at number 5. I think it's just such an amazing feat of engineering. It is one of the most truly immersive attractions I think they've ever built. And it's an incredible marriage between dark ride storytelling and thrills. It sort of took the basic layout of what Test Track was doing. And I always felt that the interior part of Test Track was, even in the old version and the new version, was sort of like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then the racing part was great. And this enhanced everything leading up to the race to make a really beautiful, emotional experience. Like, when you come around the corner and you see the waterfall and the music swells, it's so emotional. You get the laughs, and then the race. It's such a fun, beautiful ride. The whole Cars Land, I thought, was just incredibly well done. Like, all the cozy cone food and all that.
I worked at the resort when it opened. I was there opening night. I was there for that whole celebration that they streamed online,
which I watched, actually.
Yeah, so Cars Land means a lot to me for a lot of reasons for that alone, and Radiator Springs Racers is like next level Disney attraction Imagineering. There's just no way to look at it any other way. It's just an incredible feat by people who really took a movie and brought it to life in the most real way, from the moment you walk into Cars Land all the way till you get through the race and you get off the ride. Like, it's just incredible throughout, and I love it so much for that. And I'm not even the biggest fan of those movies. Like, it's really just a very special thing, and I could eat at Flo's forever.
Oh, Flo's. Yeah. I love Flo's breakfast, man.
Yeah, dude, Flo's breakfast is everything.
Now I want breakfast.
I know, dude. I would love some breakfast. Jacob, what is that?
That was number 2, and I think we're all going to be talking about this except Taylor, because she's talked about the other one, the Incredicoaster. This ride, I'm guessing no one's got it at number 1.
No.
Nope. Okay. This ride is sensational. It is my favorite kind of ride, where it is just a high octane thrill ride that is just fun from start to finish, and you get every single aspect of their quote unquote of their powers. Basically, you get the fast, you get stretch, you get it just all works so well, and I just love every single minute of it, and it's one of my favorite rides in Disney. It's my favorite California adventure
and it's
ride.
Interesting to get your perspective on it, because you've never ridden it. Like, you would never have been able to ride it the other way.
No.
So that
just makes this my favorite ride. Just like, it makes my favorite version because I never rode the other version. It's like Galaxy all over again. Apparently, I'm just an IP. I love IP. I don't like the original stuff.
How dare you?
I mean, look behind you, and it's very obvious that is true. But no, I mean, it's a good overlay, man. It's a good overlay. I can't argue with that. I'm always going to probably prefer it as Screaming, though. Like I said, I worked it that way. Like I knew that attraction inside and out that way. So the Incredicoaster is nice, and I'm glad that you enjoy it. But it's always going to be Screaming.
Probably make me sound like a snob. And don't get me wrong, I think Incredicoaster or California Screaming are really fun roller coasters. But these sort of roller coasters are not what I love about Disney. I love the more immersive rides with the more theming, the dark rides. And compared to certain other roller coasters like at Six Flags, especially as Incredicoaster does have good theming and the track is well built, it's thrilling. It just wouldn't make my personal top 10 because it doesn't have that next level. But it's totally subjective. Like everyone looks for different things in rides. And as you said, you love the high octane thrill rides. And this is a great example of that for sure.
It really... Yeah, it really makes me ask. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jacob.
No, I'm good. I'm done.
Okay. No, I was gonna say it really makes me ask a lot of questions about what the Epcot though, the Guardians coaster that's coming, because we talk about that mixture of immersion and thrill. I think we're about to see the perfect marriage between the two. From everything I've read, yes, I've read a lot about this. Like it's supposed to be groundbreaking floor, like all guns down, like it's ready to go. And
I'm more excited for the Tron cycles, honestly. But
true,
I think, but that's a ride that exists in another park already in Asia, so you kind of know what you're getting. And Guardians is something of a secret to this point. I don't quite think anyone knows what exactly that ride or track is going to look like. I hope it's great. I mean, Epcot could certainly use an e-ticket thrill ride. It sure does, yeah. Like, so when I was at, I don't think it was the most recent D23. I think it was the one before that where Bob Iger was explaining how they fit it in, and it was like, and Peter Quill took a trip to Epcot when he was a child, and I was like, that's the best you can do, Disney Imagineering? Come on, guys.
So insulting. Don't do that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm excited for the ride. I think it'll be super fun. I just think it should be at Hollywood Studios or
yes. I agree. Somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's fair. It's fair. All right. So that leaves us with Evan. What is your number 4?
3. My number 3 is Expedition Everest.
Yay, my fleece.
It is just so good. Like even with the broken Yeti.
The Yeti. Oh.
I still get terrified of it. Like when you're rolling through and you see that Yeti, you're like, oh my God, it's gonna hit me in the face, and it doesn't hit you in the face, but it's so good. And we also to the other point where we talk about Tower of Terror, you still get that awesome view of the rest of the park. I only have like one small and it's a coaster critique too. When you're at the top, you sit there for like 5 seconds. I'd rather just go up and then back down. It'd feel more natural from a coaster standpoint.
I think it builds suspense though. Like you're like, you don't know, especially if you've never been on it before.
And I think it's supposed to be like part of the story. It's like you get there and it's like, oh no, we can't go any further now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. but other than that, like even when you're in the line, it builds up this mythology about the Yeti and this trek that you're going on to Mount Everest. And then when you finally get in and you get in your little cart and fucking goes, it doesn't start off like overtly slow, and then you go up the hill. Then your ride starts, and it is high speed. It is fast rolling, but it still feels like a Disney coaster. It doesn't feel out of place to the rest of it, which is really nice. And then you go backwards, which as a child I didn't expect. I got the shit scared out of me. We're going backwards, like, oh my God! And then you finally meet face with the Yeti, and it's just overall a really good time. That's another one I was talking about where I can get a smile out of my dad every time I ride it. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, excuse my language, but Expedition Everest is fucking awesome, and I have absolute confidence that if Jacob Blunden ever gets to ride it, he'll love it. To me, this is the perfect blend of high octane roller coaster thrills and theming, because even throughout the queue, and yes, 9 times out of 10 I'm going single rider. I'm not waiting in that queue, but in the few times I've gone through the queue, everything builds the story. Everything is setting up this expedition, and then you get in the car, and especially if you can get in the front row, is my favorite place to sit. And it's just thrilling. There's surprises. As you mentioned, it goes backwards. Even though the Yeti isn't what it used to be, it's still amazing. The lighting work, the shadow when you see him, it's so good. It's fast. And until Hagrid's, it was the most expensive roller coaster ever built. It's not anymore. But yeah, I just love this ride. I think it's so beautiful. Like I could just sit and watch from the outside of the mountain where the train is coming down all day. And I think it's a great focal point for the park. I love the ride, as you can see from my fleece with all the cool patches.
And you mentioned great view of the theme park. It's like you can see multiple theme parks.
You can see all of them, pretty much all of them. Yeah.
So it's like it's not even just it's one of the rare views that you can kind of see extending beyond just the park where you are.
Yeah. So if you ever make it to Florida, Jacob, put this one high up on your
You
list.
will
I have
love
a
it.
feeling you'll dig it.
Oh yeah, this is one. Yeah, this is one I've always dreamed of riding.
We're gonna go on it, PJ.
Yeah,
we are.
As soon as we fight this pandemic, we're booking a trip.
Yeah,
All right, here we go.
Sounds good to me.
When I reschedule mine.
We'll meet. I was supposed to be there April 17th for the Star Wars 5K. So we'll go with that.
with you.
Hey, if you guys are all, if we are able to actually come into your country in November, then we should all maybe do that.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So here we go. I'm gonna give a little bit of pretense. So my personal favorite parts of a park in all of theme parks I've been to personally have been the Potter worlds. I know it's not Disney, but to preface, I think nothing will ever top Hogwarts, especially with the addition of Hagrid's. Forbidden Journey is probably my favorite ride of all time. But there are two rides that come super close when it comes to immersion and thrill. One of them being Avatar: Flight of Passage. Like here's the thing. Like, first of all, wow, I'm blanking on the name. I feel dumb. The World of Avatar. Why do I feel so dumb right now? Pandora. Thank you. It happens, guys. I have blanks.
Maybe if you took off the hat, your brain would work a little better.
Good call. It's incredible. Because probably some of the best photo ops in all the Disney parks. The smells. They have misters everywhere, so you're not too hot. And even when you're waiting in line in crack of dawn, the sun's not beating down on you because there's plenty of shade everywhere. And then you get into the queue of Flight of Passage. It's always gonna be a 3-hour wait, but it does not feel like 3 hours because every single twist and turn, there's something new for your eyes. Whether it's just through the trees, and then you go into the caves, and then you go into we're now actually in the land of Pandora, and then you actually get into the facilities where there's this really cool. I don't know if it's an animatronic or what they do with it, but it is an avatar laying down flat, kind of in the water concealer thing.
It's an animatronic, yeah.
Yeah, and it is absolutely breathtaking. It is one of the cooler sights that Disney has to offer. Part of me says it's revolutionary because it is probably the most like uncanny any of it gets. Like you're like, that's real. There's no way that's not real. And then you get on the ride. The best way I've been able to describe it is soaring on crack.
Yep.
But in all the best ways possible. The 3D is out of this world. The 4D experience that it gives it to you was just really immersive, really crazy. And then the way how you're strapped in, it's like you're leaning forward. You are like you're riding a banshee. And when I first did this, I was just blown away. I had no words because the facts that they were able to do something like that and be able to actually not only put you in that setting, but actually make you one of the avatars will forever blow me away. When we talk about Disney magic, it's that right there. Avatar: Flight of Passage, I said it is my second favorite Disney ride. I didn't expect to be that high.
No, as soon as you go into like into the avatars, all I have in my head is why?
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
I had this number 6 on my list. I was rudely interrupted at the time. I'm thrilled to talk about it now. Look, I like the film Avatar. I think it's fine. At the time I thought it was an amazing technical accomplishment, but the fact is when I heard that Disney was building an entire Avatar-based world, I was sort of a casual shrug, wait and see. And I think they knocked it out of the park in a way few people could have anticipated. The whole world of Pandora is a stunning achievement, from the exterior to the food. Sally's Canteen is fucking fantastic. Navi River Journey is a beautiful dark ride, but Flight of Passage is gorgeous. It definitely takes some elements of Soarin', and ups it with the true 4D experience. The way it literally feels like the Banshee is breathing on you, or the way the leg braces sort of move in and out. So it's just such a remarkable achievement. And I don't know, I've been on it a couple of times. I don't know if you've ever taken the opportunity to look behind you. The fact that the room sort of moves forward, drops down a little bit, and is on its own axis, it's just really mind-blowing. And I find it super emotional, like the scents, the music, the gorgeous vistas, the wind blowing in your hair. It's just a fully immersive experience. And I'm not always thrilled with super screen-heavy rides. I think it's something that theme parks at large have become a little over-reliant on, if I'm going on a little bit of a tangent. But I think this is such a perfect example of what can be done. I love this ride. We have a wood board with the ride up in our house, actually. And as you saw, I have my little guy here. So yeah, Flight of Passage is fantastic. No matter what other people may say, it's all opinions. And to what my wife said in the chat, the best piece of advice I can give is if you wait till park closing, get in line like 5 minutes before it closes. It's like a 25 minute wait.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those. It's the reason why it's the e-ticket attraction of Animal Kingdom right now, and it's gonna be that for a while because it's hard to explain it to PJ because I tried talking to him about air, but you kind of have to be on it to understand its groundbreakingness of the ride.
And I'll ride it one day.
I know.
It's the nuance.
You have to be on it to understand
the
it.
little nuances that make it extra special to me are very hard to describe. Like this is not the ride where you can watch a video and understand it.
Oh yeah.
You know, something like Radiator Springs Racers or some of the amazing looking rides at Tokyo Disney Sea that I will go on one day. You can watch the ride throughs and get a good idea as to what might make them so special. This ride, a video online cannot capture it, besides the fact that it's in 3D, so it'll just look like blurry shit anyways.
Right. One day I'll write it, and then I'll get to know.
As we've discussed, yes, you will.
Yes.
Yes, you will. All right, PJ.
So that makes
what's your 3 and 2? Yeah, 3.
So my number 3 has been fast passed to death to this point. So I'm hoping that I'm finally at a place where I get to talk about it, and that is Pirates of the Caribbean.
All right, let's
do it.
Finally. Finally.
It's a pirate's life for us.
It has taken so long to get here, and I've been waiting all night to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean. We will blitz all night.
It's your fault because you had it so hot.
Yeah, you're the reason we had to wait.
Yeah, well, we got here. That's what matters.
You're literally upset at yourself.
PJ, what's so funny? PJ, you got so mad at yourself, you ended up freezing my StreamYard stream for like 2 seconds.
Well, I'm mad at myself 95% of the time because of things like this. Irrationally, I'm mad that I wanted to praise this, and yet I have it so high that we couldn't praise it until now. This is like one of the most immersive attractions of all time. There's something so beautiful about the way that this ride captures you and feels, and like you feel everything for it. When you get in the line, by the time you get in the boat and you're just like cruising through New Orleans and you hear the music and that feeling of being there, and then you hear the whispers as you start to go into the tunnel and you reach that first drop at Disneyland and you realize that you're going back in time. And as you slowly go back in time to the point that you actually see like the pillaging of pirates and these burning towns and the adventure of it all. And it's so like sweepingly 30s cinema romantic in the right way. Like it just gives me so much life, even with the additions of having Jack and Barbossa more incorporated overall in the ride. It doesn't take away from that feeling that the ride gives me every time I'm on it. And anyone who knows Pirates of the Caribbean knows the smell of the water. We live the smell of the water. Like, what it feels like. What it's intoxicating. It's perfect. I love everything about this attraction so much. It holds such a dear place in my heart. I can't not love it and gush about it all the time.
So this is like easily one of my favorite rides. It was on my it was number 7 on mine. I really do love this ride. It manages to bring you straight back into the world while at the same time making you really can see how authentic and
there you go. You got there.
I learned and just like how beautiful the design is for it all. And I absolutely love this ride. And we went on it in Tokyo as well. I do remember that. And I'm pretty sure it's slightly different, but I remember a projection of Davy Jones. That was the only thing I can remember.
That was a thing that was definitely added in when 3 and 4 were like a thing, but it's not even there anymore.
Okay, so that was probably was at Disneyland, but it wasn't. But no one by the time I got there.
Yeah, but no, this is a ride that I feel like is just completely iconic, and one of the first things that pops into a lot of people's mind when you think of the Disney parks. It's one of those things that they made this ride and all of a sudden it became so much bigger than what it actually was, and that's how we ended up with all the Pirates movies and how big it was in pop culture, and just the huge explosion that actually happened around it, which I think is so fascinating. But it's just a ride that just has kind of permeated beyond. Like, I just think Disneyland and go, oh yeah, of course, Pirates, and it's just such a, once again, it's not exactly a thrill ride, but it's one of their dark rides, one of their rides where they immerse you into this fantastical world and you believe it, and you just sit back and you just have such a great time with it, and you feel like you're being transported away from the world that you know for just that little bit of time. And I honestly can't think of Pirates without just smelling the water.
Yeah.
Like, it's just comes to mind immediately.
Perfect.
And I just, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Well, and one of my favorite stories about this attraction is going back to when it was in development. It's always a story about how Walt Disney, he knew what people were good at. He knew what people had worked on before, but that wasn't necessarily what he was going to have you work on next. He was kind of like looking at what people did. He's like, how can I get the best out of you? What's the next thing I can do? So Ex Atencio, which a lot of people know, he wrote the lyrics for Grim Grinning Ghost at Haunted Mansion. But the first time, he was not a scriptwriter. He was not a songwriter, but Walt looked at him and he went to him. He's like, you're going to do the script for Pirates. And he's just like, what? I don't do that. He's like, well, you're going to do it now. So, I think it's just when you go back and look at, everybody knows the song. And even like if you don't necessarily know like the whole storyline of Pirates, like, yo ho, a pirate's life for me. I get really nostalgic about this ride, and it just gives me so much emotions thinking about how Walt had such a hand in this, and he had such a hand in what makes it so amazing by just putting the right people in the right place to make it what it is. And aside from the additions of, for the Johnny Depp and like the movie additions, it's largely been unchanged, which is just amazing for a ride that's been around for so long.
When I think about Walt Disney himself, when I think about the legacy of his theme parks, this is one of 2 rides that stands out to me as what an incredible shift it was from what anyone had seen before in the amusement space. And I really think it's just an absolute masterpiece. This is one where I definitively feel Disneyland is superior to Disney World. The Disney World version is a great ride, don't get me wrong. But Disneyland is much longer. It has the whole setup. And the first time I ever went on it in Disneyland, when I was living out there working, it was nighttime. And it legitimately took me like a good minute to decide if I thought I was inside or outside when you're first coming on the boat and passing the Blue Bayou restaurant. Yeah. It does such a good job of capturing the feel. And I love that you pass by the restaurant. It's so spectacular.
Me too.
Just one cool note about the Paris version, which is also really good, as opposed to the other Disney parks where you're on the train and you can see into Splash Mountain. At Paris, when you're on the train, you can see into Pirates at a certain spot. And I do really want to go on the Shanghai one because it looks spectacular.
Yeah, I want to go on Shanghai so badly.
Yeah, when you had talked about not really being able for Flight of Passage to get the full experience from a video, I feel like Shanghai, that's the same thing. Like, I've watched the videos, but it's just, I can't, my brain cannot comprehend what that would look like in person.
Yeah. And to what you were saying, Teresa, even though they did add Barbossa and Jack Sparrow, it's so subtly and minimally done. I don't feel like it detracts from the ride whatsoever. And it helps that those movies were pretty darn good. Whoa. So it's sort of like all symbiotic together. Like it's just Pirates, that water.
I mean, something I quote all the time came from one of the editions, because for the longest time, when you would go up the ramp at the end, Jack would say like a whole bunch of different stuff. Now it's been pretty streamlined down to just a couple of things, but one of them was a toast to piracy and its many shiny rewards. And so anytime we toast, Max, you've been with me.
Yeah.
I'll clink glasses and I say it, and it's always stayed with me because I just think it's a great line, and it's the power of that storytelling and the way it's permeated into my soul at this point. Like it's just so good.
It's so funny that you guys like mentioned that because I haven't been able to ride the LA one, and I've never been connected to the Disney World one too much because I like it's a fun ride to me, but I don't remember a time where it wasn't Pirates of the Caribbean. Like I don't remember a time before that. So I'm curious.
The movie before the movie stuff was in it, you mean?
Yeah. Because it's my 13th, but between like 20 and 13 it all kind of flip-flops, but it never stuck out to me. So I'm curious if like the one in Anaheim could really shift my perspective on the ride, because it sounds more story driven rather than just, oh, here's a bunch of crazy pirate shenanigans as Jack Sparrow takes you through the
I do too.
So
it's so funny. Part of what they had to do in Disneyland is because there's so much less space. They had to create these scenarios where you enter in the park, but then you get transported to a show building that's like on the other side of the highway, or they can build underground in Disneyland, which if you build underground in Florida, you're drowning. So you go down so much, and there's so much more of a buildup in Disneyland because they had to make more creative use of the space.
Well, and I think that's why it feels so immersive, because there's so many drops because you're getting to that point every time.
I also love to eat at the Blue Bayou restaurant and just watch the boats go by.
Me too.
It's such a magical experience.
It's just so good. It's just so good, you guys. And that makes my number 2, and I know this is a fast pass, so I'm just going to say it out loud. It's the Haunted Mansion.
I think that's the highest. Unless anyone is it anyone's number 1?
That's exactly why I knew.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Fair enough. All right.
That goes down to Teresa for the number 1 attraction of all time for Teresa.
Drum roll.
No, so, and this I'm going to preface, I know people are going to yell at me in the chat because this is why I specifically asked what's an attraction, and PJ left it as something you would wait for. So
I did.
This is something that I have sat and waited for this to come. Like I've waited for this, so it counts. It's a combination of half the things on my list, which are things in Epcot or things that don't exist anymore, and it's Illumination's Reflections of Earth, which was the Epcot fireworks show. But it's, to me, I put it number 1 because like it's not, even though it's a fireworks show, it's not about the fireworks.
Right.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
It doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, no, it's devastating to me. So it was around for over 25 years. I can't remember exactly when it started. But to me, this is Epcot. To me, Reflections of Earth, this is just Disney. If you're not familiar with it, like I said, it's Epcot's fireworks. But I think they intentionally made the firework bursts. That's not what they wanted you to notice. They're all there. It's all timed with the music, and it's wonderful. But they want you to notice the story. It's all about, hold on, I wrote notes on this because I knew I would ramble if I didn't. It's basically, no, it's the whole story. It's about the human spirit. It's about appreciating everything that makes us individually and culturally unique, but then how much more impactful and how wonderful it is when we all come together. There's no lyrics through most of the show. It's just instrumental music. So you don't have people being like, oh, I know that song from this movie, and I know that's where that character sings. The focus wasn't about that. I think they wanted to be about just, it'd be about community and people coming together. And finally, once you get towards the end, there's a song called We Go On. And especially now with the situation that we're in, like not being able to get to go back to Epcot and hear this, I know the lyrics off the top of my head. So like it's we go on through the joy or to the joy and through the tears, we go on to discover new frontiers. Like it basically it's just the whole thing is about, there's dark times that we all go through, but when we can unify and we can come together, like we can go on and we can discover and create new and beautiful things. So we talked about if Bob Chapek is watching this, he definitely should watch it. If you're watching this, please find some way to put this in Epcot after we all come back, because not getting to hear this in that park is just, I think, especially now, whenever I get to be there again, it would just, I'm already gonna be like a bucket of tears when I go back, but that would push me over the edge in the best of ways.
The way you talk about this is how I feel about Remember Dreams Come True.
That's my favorite. Yes, I love that at Disneyland.
So that's the way, that how you're talking right now is when I talk about Remember and how it makes me feel and how I listen to it and I cry because it's just so beautiful. And I love everything about this being your number one because it really feels like a testament to the human spirit on top of it. And I love that.
Yeah, I think it's a bold and beautiful choice as number one. Every time I would watch it, and the sound would be like of the blowing breath, and then the torches around World Showcase Lagoon would go out, gave me chills. But there was one time where Elizabeth was working at Epcot, and she got to know some of the fireworks guys. So we got to sit on one of the bridges around the lagoon, which is closer for safety than they usually let people. And so when it was all done, we were covered in head to toe with ash from the fireworks. Looked like we had just gotten off the set of like Dante's Peak or Volcano or something. Had to go into the bathroom and like wash yourself off. But being so close, it's so beautiful. When we were there in I guess early February, and we were at Epcot, and it was a long day because we had run a 5K at Universal earlier that morning, and we were trying to make it to see the new little interstitial one they put on, and we were just like, let's go eat.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I love that this is your number one.
So yeah, especially with Illuminations, I think one of my favorite things about Illuminations is I usually like to end my day in Epcot, like in the pavilions, like in all the different countries, because it's not as hot then, especially because there's not too much shade when you're walking around the world. My favorite is whenever I end up in Japan, because there's that big arch.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And it is just absolutely breathtaking, incredible. And I the last time I was there, I think it was July, and I think it was the last chance I had to go see Illuminations. And it didn't happen. And because there were thunderstorms coming through, and I didn't get to see it. Not to end on a sour note, but I have really high hopes that I think the next fireworks show, it will never live up to Illuminations or what it represents. But I know they're taking their time on it. So I have high hopes that they can follow through.
Well, so what they have right now, I said my goodbye to Reflections of Earth. It was like maybe like 8 months before it actually closed, because I was like, I knew it was leaving. They hadn't announced the end date yet, but I knew it was coming. So I went, and I think I was in Disney once after I'd already like had my giant meltdown. I was actually with James at the time. We were watching it, and like before we left the park, I was just like, I just need to sit down for a few minutes and just like have my moments of like my morning of just being, made my peace with it. And so right now they have Epcot Forever, which is just like it's basically it's all Epcot music from the parks, which is fabulous. I do love that. But I think so harmonious is what's coming next, and I think the reason why, like, I love Illuminations. Again, going back to my whole like, I don't need characters to enjoy Disney. Disney is why I enjoy Disney. But so that the one that's coming up is all based on Disney music and characters. I'm sure it will be fine, but it's not what I grew to love about Epcot and like that park specifically. So but I'm okay with that. I don't need to have everything that they do be my favorite. It's going to be someone else's favorite, and I will always have this.
No, I get it, man. I love it. I can't wait. I want to somehow see this someday because I never got to.
There's some really good videos of Illuminations.
Yeah. Okay, I'll look it up.
I'll send you a link of one that I think is really good.
Awesome. Well, then that makes you, Max, your number one.
I don't think it's any surprise based on what's gone down, but my number one favorite Disney attraction of all time is the Haunted Mansion.
There it is. We reached it.
Much like I was saying with Pirates, there's two attractions that to me are emblematic of what Walt Disney and Walt Disney Imagineering accomplished that really changed the amusement park industry from just being like teacups and roller coasters, which are fantastic in their own right, to immersive dark rides. I could really flip a coin between Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. Disneyland has the Hatbox Ghost, and I like it when they do the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay. But I was thinking about it, and I think Magic Kingdom has slightly better pacing and is a little longer. And for whatever reason, I like the exterior of it better in Florida. I like where it is situated in the park. I like how it's right by where the riverboats are. Yeah. And I love what they did to the queue. I think the interactive queue they did was so much fun. This ride is just a wonder of special effects, and special effects that have been around for 40 years and still hold up, and they have barely had to tinker with it or update it at all. Like really simple, like old school stage illusions just inserted into this ride that still to this day are breathtaking. It's creepy but not scary. It's whimsical. It's just I'm head over heels in love with the Haunted Mansion. I could ride it over and over again. The song Grin Grinning Ghost is an all-time bop. I love the singing busts. I love the piano keys. I love Madame Leota. I love the staircase room. I hate the movie with Eddie Murphy. Everyone else talk about Haunted Mansion. Let's go. It's amazing.
I mean, look, was my number 2. I fucking love this ride. I think it's incredible. It's one of the most immersive attractions that's ever existed. It is one that I have, as Max and I have talked about to great depth. Like, I want to make a movie about the Haunted Mansion so badly, but base it off of like the Winchester Mystery House and like that thought process of how that was created. I love everything about it. I think that this attraction, again, it's like it's been around for so long and yet it holds up. It's barely needed to be touched. It doesn't need updating. And yet the nightmare stuff works for it. Like the nightmare overlay is fantastic. It's one of the best overlays that you could possibly do to an attraction. And everything about it just makes me feel great inside. Is there anything better than that feeling of getting in and you're watching as, you know, is this haunted room actually stretching? Like everything about it is just so perfect and it works. And when you see kids who have never ridden it and the fear in their eyes and the lightning flashes and you hear them scream, it gives me life in the best way. Haunted Mansion rules.
I think much like Pirates, the iconography of Haunted Mansion has extended past just beyond Disney fans, and like the hitchhiking ghosts, Madame Leota and her crystal ball, the song, it's all so recognizable. Though even the wallpaper, I mean, what they've done with the wallpaper in terms of merch is just, I love it. And I agree. There's so much room to be mined for an actual, I mean, it kills me that Guillermo del Toro is.
I want to see Guillermo's.
The film hasn't happened. I would love for that to happen someday. Because it reminds me that I know him and Ryan Gosling were talking about it, and there's that great photo of the two of them just looking like little kids on Radiator Springs racers. Yeah. But yeah, Haunted Mansion is just, I mean.
Ditto? Oh, I froze.
No, I love Haunted Mansion. It's always been one of my favorites. It's half of the reason that I like going when Halloween rolls around so that I can see the overlays because I love it so much and I think it works so seamlessly with the way that they do it. And it's one of the best immersive storytelling rides that I've really ever seen. It works so well with the way that it has decided to transport you from the line to the actual ride itself. It's such a creative way to do it, to automatically show you the world that you're being brought into. I love the little cars and the way that the lap bar lowers for you without you having to touch anything. Like just little touches like that where it just feels like, oh yeah, this is a completely different thing. And it just has so much charisma. Like it's just it's its own thing and it understands what it's trying to be. And it's just so much fun. And it's a ride that knows how to have fun while still taking its concept seriously. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that a lot.
This one, I've been on the actual Haunted Mansion ride once. And that's because every time I've gone to Disneyland, except once, it was Halloween time. So it was always Nightmare Before Christmas, and I've only ever been on the actual main ride once. So, yeah.
Well, listen, the first time that I took him to Disneyland, he was coming to the States around that time, and I was like, if we miss the opportunity to go to Disneyland while it's Halloween, we actually went on Halloween.
Yeah, we
did. And we dressed up and went to the party and everything, but it was a lot of fun. So I was like, you're going to get your introduction to Disneyland in a very different way because it's all going to be Halloween. But we did get to go back in July and you actually got to see what it looks like when it's just Disneyland. But did you have a preference? Do you think
I do. I love the original more, but that's I just think the iconography is right. Like the iconography of the original is just so iconic, and just I think it works for the story really well, and you just kind of get sucked into the story. So I do love the Nightmare Before Christmas version.
What I think is so amazing I do transform it too, like between the one version to the next. Like it's not a totally different ride because it's still the same track, but that it's so impressive how much they're able to change it.
By far the best overlay they do anywhere.
Yes,
I really want to go on Mystic Manor someday.
Yes.
What I'm just saying is I'd like to go to the Asian Disney parks. That would be cool.
So you guys have wrapped up literally everything I've wanted to say about this. So I'm just gonna add in one extra point. PJ was wrong. Mr. Toad does live on in Magic Kingdom, but just in the grave of the Haunted Mansion.
He's in the cemetery.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything about Mr. Toad not living on.
That was me, actually. I said the ride was gone.
God damn it, Max. Make me blank, PJ. It's like you guys are the same person. I don't know.
There it is again. Are we twins again? Is that what's happening?
I echo everything everyone else has said. So I will add my fun fact about Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion is the only attraction that in every Disney park it's in a different land.
Yep.
So it's in New Orleans Square in Disneyland, Liberty Square in Walt Disney World. It's in Frontierland in Paris. It's in the Mystic Manor is at Mystic Point in Hong Kong, and it's in Fantasyland in Tokyo.
Yep.
There's your fun Disney trivia for the day.
I love everything about that.
And I think of all the rides that appear in different parks, it's the one that has the most variations, especially when you go overseas. Because like I talked about Phantom Manor and then Mystic, it's also different.
Totally. All right. So that goes up to Taylor with her number.
All right. Let's do this. My number one is Jacob's favorite ride, easily, that I could barely even drag him on.
I don't like this ride.
Splash Mountain is my number one.
Oh, yeah.
I love this ride because, first of all, it's a water ride. So you're just screwed either way. You're just like, I'm doomed, and it's awesome. I really like the storytelling elements of this ride. I think that they went, well, crap. We have these very problematic characters. What the heck do we do with them? Let's put them in this really fun Splash Mountain ride. I don't know. I think I have a little bit of a bias, I guess, towards water rides. I really like water rides a lot when they're done right, and I think this handles it really well. I think it has a good amount of thrill elements throughout the ride, but it also has a story. It has a song that it's going to get stuck in your head for like 3 days. And I think that it finishes off at a really high point. It's a ride that I would drag my family on, whether it was like 6 degrees or whether it was 100 degrees. So look, I'm super fun to go to Disneyland with because I'm like, you know what?
We're going on this.
We're just going to do stuff no matter what, and it's going to be great. I took you on it, and then we had to go back to the hotel because your jeans were
I was soaked. So yeah. That was fun.
I mean, I just have a lot of good memories with this ride. Actually, there was one time my family went on it. It was me and my brother, my mom, and my stepdad. And my brother was still really young at the time. And we got our picture taken. And we went to go have a look at it at the photo booth. And they were like, so can you sign this thing so that we can display your picture on the freaking, like, it was that just like where everyone had these super vastly different reactions to what was happening on that drop. And they were like, can we like have all the rights to this photo because this is awesome.
It's amazing.
But it was.
I adore this ride. I'm really glad that it was your number one because I think the storytelling in Splash Mountain is remarkable for what they're able to do. They turned what is a like standard log flume ride into an immersive dark ride experience that is joyous and fun and kind of scary, but very thrilling. And just like, it makes me feel good. And I enjoy riding it every single time. There's not a ton I can add because it's just fantastically made and it just makes me happy. So, I'm all
I love how it goes from being happy and joyful and then really does well with flipping the switch of being like, actually, there's doom ahead. Like the music and the tone and everything just shifts so perfectly where you go, oh crap, this is what I'm in for. But it just does it so well because you have that atmosphere of it being joyous and having fun and having the catchy music. And then it just gets to that point and you're like, oh no, here we go. This is going to be a great time. But yeah, I think they take the water ride concept and just do something really inventive with it that most people will enjoy.
Well, especially for coming from something so problematic.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Still be so wonderful even now. Like, can't find anything to argue about it. And we talked about the music. It does have one of the best theme park songs ever, but not one that's on the ride. It is the Splash Mountain rap, which if you've never heard it, is so wonderful.
Not
And so
wrong.
The fun thing about Splash Mountain comparing Florida to Disneyland is it's the opposite of Space Mountain, where in California you're sitting one down, and then in Florida it's two across. I like the ride. I don't always love getting wet. It depends. If it's like a really hot day, I'll get wet. But there was one time where I was at Disneyland pretty late, and I got the whole flume, the log, to myself. And as I came up to the top, the fireworks went off, and I was like, I couldn't recreate this moment 1,000 times if I tried.
That's amazing. What an amazing memory. Holy crap. Damn it, Max.
It's a fun ride. It's
No, I get it, man.
I wouldn't mind if like you could go through all the dark ride scenes and then not get wet at the end.
Sure. That's fair too.
That would be my ideal too, because I don't love water rides,
Well,
but that's just me.
That's why you're now with me,
I
so
know.
that you have to go on them.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
I don't mind water rides at California as much, because if you're staying, like, the hotels are also tend to be much closer in California than in Florida, so you can just hop back and change. But
Well, and in Florida, because you don't know if it's still going to be sunny when you get off. Like, I've ridden it, and then it's just been pouring. So I'm like, well, it's getting wet anyway.
But you get much wetter on Grizzly River Rapids.
All right.
Yeah.
So that leads Jacob to his number one.
I just want to say this is a very 0% surprising number one if you know Jacob at all.
My number one, very controversial.
Oh no, y'all didn't hear me. I gotta talk about Splash Mountain really quick. Oops, I have my mic off. I am so sorry, Max. I've had that moment before.
You're stealing
practically,
my moment?
I had a friend who would time it to where we would get fast passes. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would have a friend who would time it to where we would get fast passes so we could see the fireworks, and we would like time it perfectly to do that. And it was such a good thing. And it also has my favorite Imagineering Easter egg in all of Disney parks. At one point in Splash Mountain Disney World, there is a chipmunk that comes from over you and says FSU, because that's where they went to school. It's a real Easter egg. Look it up.
On James's behalf. Go Gators.
I don't care. Go Knowles. It's just again, it's one of those like fun imaginary things that they do that really like shows like that they really did care about some of their projects, if not all of them. Like there is a lot of heart and soul that goes into it. So go FSU, go Splash Mountain. We love to see it.
All right, now Jacob, it's your number one. Now that you've been derailed by Evan, I'm sorry.
All right, so my number one is a fairly controversial pick. It's not going to be on anyone else's list, and that is "It's a Small World." I really love. No, I'm kidding. It's Indiana Jones.
I wasn't happy with that pick.
Fast pass it because I've got to go last too.
Yeah, I know. I know Pat's going to talk about it, so I just wanted to make a joke.
I mean, but
it's Indiana Jones.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised knowing you if
Right.
it was a Small World.
I actually still have not.
Can we talk about the fact, real quick, that it took almost 2 hours and 45 minutes almost for Small World to even get brought up tonight?
Small World was on my list, but that was in my number 10 of like my list of 3. I was trying to narrow it down. That was one of them. So
all right. Well, we made it this
where
far.
California is better than Florida. Small World.
All right.
Minus Finding Nemo, because those are so lazy.
Oh, I wonder what Evan's number one could it be.
So if you guys have been paying attention to anything I've been saying today, I was privileged again where I got.
Please leave your clothes on, Evan.
No, I'm just gonna have to. I'm just kidding. It's Rise of the Resistance. Like I said earlier, very few rides can match Forbidden Journey and what it did for me. Rise of the Resistance does that. You have to go through this whole queue thing right now because they don't want lines to be that long. So you get in, it's practically walk on at that point, and people are already on you. Go, go, go. You got to go. And you jump into this ship, and then you're now into an Imperial base because you get hijacked. I'm
taking my mic because I avoid spoilers for things like for US parks. Tell me when you're done. Like wave at me.
I'll wave. Okay. And you jump in and you get hijacked by the Imperials, and then you're now in that big photo op that went everywhere where you see the tall AT-ATs and you see like the lines of stormtroopers right there. That part is absolutely breathtaking. Like by none, one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen. And then on top of that, you go in and there are Imperial leaders barking orders at you to get in line. You are afraid, you are timid, and you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And then when you actually get in the ride, it is trackless, which means is pushing it pushes the amusement park agenda forward, especially in terms of both screens and animatronics, of that mixture of real life, yet you're also seeing things on screens. And it's just so goddamn good, like from start to finish. And I really was hesitant about putting this ride on there with only one ride, but I still cannot get the facts that I rode it once and it doesn't, nothing parallels it, because it still drops. Kylo Ren scared the shit out of me. Like, I don't know how he was able to do that. He scared the living fuck out of me. And even Finn is talking to you the whole time, and you just feel this new trilogy. It kind of wraps it up, and it kind of wraps for those who love the new trilogy and what we love about it. It really does a good job of packaging it up and giving it to us. So that's Rise of the Resistance. Max, you've rode it? Maybe?
Yeah, Rise of the Resistance was my number 3. You fast passed, so I was waiting. It is just an absolute marvel of technological innovation. The things they accomplish in this ride, from the second you enter the queue to the second you board the ride vehicle, there's surprise after surprise. There's different showrooms, different elements that I don't want to spoil for those who haven't been on it. But
I'm sorry, guys.
From storytelling to the use of technology, animatronic screens, the trackless ride vehicle, the things they do with that trackless ride vehicle in really surprising and unique ways, like maybe it latches in somewhere and now it is absolutely spectacular. And as a big Star Wars fan, it finally felt like, more than Star Tours, more than anything else, like I was finally getting to live inside the world of a Star Wars movie.
So good.
I could see it one day being higher on my list. Not that number 3 is no slouch, but like you, I've only been on it the one time because it's difficult to get on or at this point. But it's just a mind-blowing attraction. From start to finish, it's almost 20 minutes. It's like so immersive. And as opposed to Flight of Passage, where the pre-shows are the worst part of the ride, even the pre-show elements here are fun and thrilling. It's
thrilling.
Incredible. I can't wait for everyone to get to ride this ride. I think anything that has ever been done great in a Disney theme park all came together in one to make this incredible new ride.
I can't wait to ride it.
All right, so are we gonna wave Teresa off now?
Yeah, so wave or back in. You can come back.
Thanks.
And so we actually had a little bit of a...
And then the ending part where...
So before we hop into mine and Jacob's number 1, we're going to hop back a little bit because I think Big Thunder must have been higher on James's list before he disappeared on us. So we never actually talked about Big Thunder, which had been fast passed to a point. So
I literally couldn't talk about any of my first picks because all of them got fast passed, including Big Thunder Mountain. So I'm ready.
So let's go ahead and talk about Big Thunder real quick. Then we'll move into Indy and we'll get everyone out of here because we're already running long.
All right, Taylor.
Oh, do I have to start?
Yes.
Great. I wasn't ready to do that. Okay. So, I mean, I don't really know what to say about Big Thunder Mountain. It's another ride to me that's a thrill ride, but even without using a lot of obvious storytelling elements, you can tell that there's a story and a character to the ride that I really appreciate. I think it's just a lot of fun. It's a great time. I think the track is really well done. I think the way that it immerses you in that world that it wants to kind of does a Space Mountain-esque kind of thing where maybe it feels like more than it actually is and gives you that effect by the atmosphere it creates. But it's just always been one of those rides where maybe it's not the first to come to my mind when I think Disneyland, but as soon as I see it or think about it, it's like, oh yeah, of course, Big Thunder Mountain. It's so great.
This ride is probably my favorite non-IP ride. So it's my favorite one that's doesn't have any IP attached to it at all. It's just a original ride that Disney came up with. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a really great thrill ride. It's a nice, like, a palate cleanser, I guess, would kind of be the best word, like in the later in the day, because that's when the rides are starting to, like, the lines are starting to get closer. They're really good ones to finish off with. My favorite memory on this ride was that when we went on it in November last year, we were able to see it was the one ride that you were able to peek into Galaxy's Edge from, because it
when
got
they
to
were
the-
still
yeah, when
working
they were
on
still
it,
working
yeah.
on it, it got to like a peak, and you were able to see into Galaxy's Edge while it was still being built. So that was great. But
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite rides, and I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I love Big Thunder. I considered putting it on my list, but I went with Everest instead because it's in many ways it's like a hyped up version of Big Thunder Mountain. But I love going on Big Thunder when it's nighttime. I think it's so much more beautiful of a ride in the dark. It's a classic for a reason. I mean, all the mountains in their own way are classics for a reason. It's a great coaster.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a reason that without any real IP, it's continued to stand the test of time. Absolutely.
Like I said, and it's another one that it's slightly, very, very slightly different in each park that you go in. Basically, it's like the big ending. I know in Florida, it's like a boulder falling on you. In California, you have the dynamite.
Yep.
Or not the, but like within there. So I love it. But it's one of the rides when I was a kid, I remember going on and it just stuck with me. So when I finally was able to go back as an adult, I was like, I have to go on this ride. And it's still, like I said, it was my number 4 pick. It's just been one of my all-time favorites. I don't think I will ever get sick of it.
Yeah, it is my wife's favorite ride for what it's worth.
Yeah, I definitely popped that up at one point. But like, I love this ride to pieces. It didn't quite make my top 10 just because there's some others I really do care about a little bit more. But like, it's still really fun and thrilling, and just like a really good little coaster. And I love the story behind it. I remember when ABC just a few years ago was going to do a TV show that didn't end up happening. There's like a 6-issue or 4-issue Marvel miniseries.
It's really good. Yeah,
that's really quite good. Yeah, so if you get a chance, check it out. Like, it really expands on what Big Thunder is, and I think it could have actually made a very cool Western TV show or even a movie. But
could have been like Deadwood Light.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Lone Ranger happened and it just killed Big Thunder in its tracks. So one of those unsung, unfortunate things.
There's a reason it's a mountain. There are 3 big mountains. There's a reason it's one of them. That's all that needs to be said.
All right, so we're going to move into what needs to be said about the number 1 attraction for me and Jacob. And I think everyone here loves this attraction except for Evan, who's never ridden on it. And that is Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. Which is easily, for me, what you guys were talking about for Rise of Resistance, because I've never gotten to experience it. Everything you said about the way that ride feels and feels fully immersive, like you're in this world, and everything I love about those movies comes to life from the moment I walk into the queue to the moment I am pulled off of the Jeep at the very end. It is the living, breathing embodiment of what it would feel like to be in a Steven Spielberg Indiana Jones film. From the moment I get there, I feel lost in the world. The John Williams music is it takes you in, it sweeps you away. You have Sala sweep you into this epic adventure where you aren't even supposed to be there, and it just is so amazing. It was the attraction that when I was a kid, they were building it. I read all the magazines leading up to it. I was so excited. But the first time I ever went to Disneyland was to ride this ride. My parents made me walk 3 miles around a block just to make sure I could walk it on my own before they would take me to Disneyland. If I made that walk without being picked up, I got to go to Disneyland to ride the Indiana Jones ride. That means everything to me. This ride means everything to me. I love it so goddamn much. It has my heart forever. It is my number 1 Disney attraction forever and ever. It is Indiana Jones.
This ride is absolutely incredible, and it's not in Tokyo, so I'd never ridden it before. And then when we got to Disneyland, and I actually got onto the ride, and you knew that I would love it. And by the end of it, I was just like, this was amazing. My biggest issue is just how long that line is.
Well, and I knew that you would enjoy it and appreciate it so much because of how much Indiana Jones means to you as a person. And I love this ride a lot. It has a special place in my heart as the ride that when I would go to Disneyland with my family growing up, it was like, this is the first ride we do in the morning because it always breaks down. And if you want to do it, we're going right now so that we all get to do it, because without fail, it breaks down at least one time every time I go there. But to me, as fun as the ride is, the the queue, the actual way that they built waiting in line blows me away. The way that you feel immersed as soon as you walk into that building to actually start waiting in line, even the outside queue does a great job of doing that. But I have always just been so fascinated, even as a kid, by just the way that you feel like you're walking into this dark, crazy adventure as soon as you're in the line. And I've always had such a special place in my heart for the video that you watch while you're standing in line, because it just brings so much character to that ride. And I do love the ride a lot, but to me, it's just that atmosphere that they create that completely continues to just blow me away.
Yeah.
When I think a lot of times when you have attractions that are based on movies, it kind of becomes the conversation, like, do you do a recreation of one of the films, or do you do like a completely new story based on that? And this was such a great blend of the two. It is like an original story, but it has so many elements that even if you know like the smallest amount from Indiana Jones, you get what's happening. You know exactly. You're like, oh yeah, I recognize that. I know where I am.
Right. Absolutely. Which is why that boulder sequence is so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when I saw it recently, basically with the boulder sequence, it was something that you kind of, where it seems like your car starts to go backwards. It's actually the wall that's moving.
Yeah, I saw that little.
Yeah, I'm like, there's so many amazing things. I'm like, that never would have occurred to me. So I'm like, it's just Imagineering genius that goes along with it.
Yeah, this was my number 2, and I was waiting for PJ and Jacob because I knew PJ, you had it at number 1. It's incredible. I know, Jacob, you mentioned how long the line is, and that's because when you start and you get in the queue, you're literally walking across the highway to get to the show building, which is on the other side. So there's a lot of walking, but it's a stunning ride. It's the same ride vehicle and track that Dinosaur uses, Evan. But this one opened in 1995, a couple of years before then. It's so thrilling and beautiful. Like when you come around the corner and the music swells and the fire is coming up from the pit. And what's interesting to me is very clearly this is an IP based ride, but there's something about it that still feels so classically Disneyland to me. Like it fits perfectly into Adventureland. And because, like what you were saying, Teresa, I think because Indiana Jones is a series of pulp adventures and there's multiple films, by creating their own new story with the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, it just feels so natural and authentic. It doesn't feel cloying. It's so much fun. The animatronics are great. It is a ride where there's so many different elements, and I've been on it on a few times where certain parts of it are not working, which detract from it a little bit. But it's still just really incredible, and I could go on it again and again as long as I didn't have to walk back and forth.
Yeah,
it's a really long walk.
It's funny that you say that, Max, because Dinosaur has that same problem too. I think that certain ride format might just have issues. It is theoretically dated at this point. Because I remember like I was riding Dinosaur like a little bit before the park closed, and like I'm like, there's something missing here. I don't know exactly what, but like the ride did not feel the same. And it's interesting to hear that happens with Indy too. I'm not surprised. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think in Dinosaur, it's just more noticeable when that happens because of it's not lit as well intentionally. So when you're missing some of the few things that are really noticeable and present, it's kind of, it takes away from the full experience.
I mean, to the point of the tracks being the same, the point when the boulder comes down is exactly when the big dinosaur is coming to get you and you drop down. So it's literally, but it's just, there's something about it. The John Williams music, it's just,
Well, the fact that John Williams did 4 or 5 minutes of new music specifically for the ride is just thrilling, and incorporating so many of the Indiana Jones themes, like very specific cues of music from those movies in very specific parts, but creating a new rendition of everything you know. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
All right. So I guess that kind of wraps up our top 10 list, but everyone's got some honorable mentions. So we're going to start with Teresa. We're going to go around. You can talk about it. Just toss out a couple of your honorable mentions, and then we'll get you guys out of here.
Before I do that, I just want to add real quick. We basically turned this into a Tony Baxter love letter because he's one of the, the last, the later generation of great Imagineers. Here's his attractions: Big Thunder Mountain, Star Tours, Splash Mountain, the Indiana Jones Adventure, and Journey into Imagination. So,
when I think of when I think of the great modern Imagineers, it's him and Joe Rohde that come to mind.
Yeah,
Although every time I see Joe Rohde, his ear sags lower and lower.
All right, but so some of the ones that were on my honorable mentions came up briefly: Small World, Enchanted Tiki Room, Country Bear Jamboree, the Skyway.
Oh yeah.
That now we have the Skyliner, so I'm like, I get a little bit of it. Maelstrom and Muppet Vision were on my honorable mentions.
I love that. All right, Maxwell.
Okay, so the first one, I just want to say, I know it's not really an attraction, and I know it's not really a ride, but the thing is, like, Epcot is pretty much my favorite park, and the reason why it's my favorite park is the World Showcase. Drinking around the world, eating the food, experiencing the culture, watching all the videos, like, that's why I love Epcot. And like, if I ever were to live in Orlando, I would have an annual pass and just like go there for dinner, which is
they
always...
have an Epcot only pass too.
Yeah, well, I would. So it's not an attraction, but I think when you think Epcot, the World Showcase is really what makes it stand out. The Ratatouille ride at Paris, which has incredible trackless technology, and I'm so excited to be able to go on it again in Florida. I'm a huge fan of Carousel of Progress because it's a Walt original. It played at the World's Fair. It's the longest running theatrical production in the history of the world. I know some people find it boring or slow, but it's just, to me, like I was saying of other things,
Those people are wrong.
It's like emblematic of what Walt Disney was and what he achieved. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which we mentioned, Kilimanjaro Safari, which we mentioned, and I'm also a pretty big fan of the new Slinky Dog coaster. I think it's a great, smooth, fun kids coaster with great theming, and I just enjoy it every time I go on it.
I love it. All right, Taylor Robinson.
All right. I've got Toy Story Mania, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
We talked about Millennium Falcon. I had that on my honorable mentions. Alice in Wonderland, we talked about. I have the Grizzly River Rapids on there as an honorable mention.
You like to get wet, huh?
Dude, I do. I think it's fun. I bought a poncho and went on when it was raining once. So that should tell you all you need to know.
I mean, if it's already raining, why not?
So I also have an attraction that's like iffy, but I have World of Color on here.
Totally.
I've got the Storybook Land canal boats in California.
So cute.
Yeah. I know. It's such a nice way to just sit back and relax for a couple minutes and enjoy some really.
I'm always afraid the cast member is going to fall off because of how precariously they sit on that boat.
I also have Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and then I have my beloved Aladdin show that I miss every single day.
I just want to say the only reason I didn't put Toy Story Mania on is because my wife beats me every time, and it makes me fucking furious that I can't beat her. If I'm at Disney,
a long time ago to just suck on that so that Taylor wins everything.
If I'm at Disney World or Disneyland without her, I love it. But if I'm with her and she beats me, I'm just like, God damn it again.
Whenever I have the green one, I always win. Like the green one. Try that next time.
Okay.
She's on her side, go take it, and you will.
Noted.
Promise.
That's amazing. All right, Jacob.
My honorable mentions, just real quick. I have Toy Story, the Toy Story Midway Mania, Buzz Lightyear, Astro Blasters, and Grizzly River Rapids. But I do also have one. This is not a ride or an attraction. It's just a room that is the start of 3 other rides. But I love sitting in this room, and that's the Art of Disney Animation in California Adventure. I just love sitting in that room for hours and watching the clips and watching everything. It is just absolutely amazing. And I know it's not technically a ride, so I didn't count it or anything.
If we're talking about rooms, can I quickly add one other thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Underneath the castle in Disneyland Paris, they have the Maleficent Dragon. It's just like a little walkthrough experience. It's an incredible animatronic. It's so gorgeous. I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't know where we were going. So anyways.
One day.
All right,
Evan.
Muppet Vision 3D. It's already been brought up, but like it's so wholesome. It is the
so
most
good.
wholesome you'll ever see.
When it's the last thing Jim Henson recorded.
That's what I was going to bring up.
I didn't know that. Now I'm sad. Test Track. For what we talk about, it's still so much fun. Like
fun.
I think the older version is actually better, and that's something different that you don't hear out of my mouth.
As opposed to Tron Track. As opposed to Tron Track.
No, it's an updated Chevy one. It's really weird.
No, I'm saying with all the neon lights inside the new version, it's very Tron-esque.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't feel very authentic. And then Mission Space is super dope.
Not a fan.
Okay, look, I feel the G's in my face, and like when you press the buttons, even though it doesn't do a thing, you still feel like I'm a freaking going in space. And it's just, and especially when you bring your new friends on and they feel the for the first time, it's so cool to experience with other people.
They got rid of Gary Sinise, though.
I know, it's dead to me now.
Dead to me. Lieutenant Dan is gone. Forget it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. With Mickey's Sohar Magic, that is an absolute wonder. Just it's a really good walkthrough. You have a quick break in the park, just introducing Donald Duck shenanigans, who I think is probably my favorite Toon Disney character. We mentioned Slinky Dog Dash, absolutely incredible. Twister Mania, this hasn't gotten mentioned yet, which is fine. The Rock and Roller Coaster, presented by Aerosmith. Look, it is my thrill in Disney. It's the fastest. I don't think it's the fastest, but it's close. Like, it feels the fastest. I think Test Track is, but it feels like the fastest ride. The corkscrews are great. Hearing Aerosmith blast in your ears is fucking awesome.
The best time I ever went on Rock and Roller Coaster was a couple years ago when they did Galactic Nights the same weekend that Celebration was in Anaheim. I want to say 2016. I might be wrong on the year. And it was the only night they ever laid over Star Wars on Rock and Roller Coaster. And it was awesome. And then a photo populated later of Hayden Christensen riding it. And I love that photo.
And then last but not least, this is a shout out that I don't think many people expected. Disney Quest out in Disney Springs.
God. I have so many bad memories there. It's so dirty.
Really?
So filthy.
It's one of my favorite memories. I went there for New Year's Eve while my parents got drunk in Disney Springs. And for some reason...
How old were you?
I was probably 13.
That explains it.
Yeah.
It was still a great time. Like, I could just bounce from place to place. I don't suffer. I have ADHD. And so, like, it was perfect for me just to go from one place to another and just do a bunch of different things that were all, like, very kinesthetic and then just being able to, like, do them, if that makes sense.
I liked the room where they had all the retro games, but I thought all of like the games built for it, like the Pirates thing, and when you're like on the magic carpet and it was floating, I just never thought it quite worked like they wanted it to, and it always felt so dirty to me. I was like, they are not cleaning those VR headsets in between each person. I'm about to put this. Nope.
Look, that's very true, but also I had a great time. And last but not least, Boardwalk Disney, but the walk from Epcot to Hollywood.
Oh,
I love
that part. That's my favorite part. I love staying at those resorts. We ate when we were there in February. We ate at Flying Fish for the first time, which was one of the best meals I've ever had at Disney. The boardwalk is stunning. That's where we stayed on my bachelor party, actually, because we did my bachelor party at Disney World.
Yes, sir.
Ample Hills Creamery. Oh,
yeah.
Guys, I want to go to Disney.
Me
too. Sad.
So real quick, mine, just to wrap up, this didn't get brought up. Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, that's good.
Go sit and watch it for hours. It makes me happy. Roger Rabbit didn't get brought up. The Toon Spin is a lot of fun. I think it's a great kind of just fun dark ride for kids. Pinocchio, which is terrifying in the best.
It is scary.
And
yeah, that's my favorite dream.
Yeah, and then of course, as already mentioned, Muppet Vision 3D, because I am a Muppet in real life, and it was the last Jim Henson production, and I love it to pieces.
And it came up in the chat a few times, and I should have mentioned this. I don't know why I didn't. Main Street Electrical Parade. Come on.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
My fancy hatted turtle. He was my favorite Disney parade float of all time.
I liked Paint the Night too. That was a beautiful parade.
Yeah, Paint the Night was awesome too.
And Fantasmic's great. Disney's great, you guys. Just go have fun, ride all the rides, see the shows. We could do a whole other show about our favorite food, our favorite resorts.
I mean, if this is any indication, that could be forever, because this was 3 hours of Disney in the best quarantine party possible. I am really, really happy that all of you guys were here tonight. I'm going to start with Teresa as we sign off. But again, Teresa, thank you so much for being on and spending 3 hours with us. I hope you had a good time.
Great. I had a lot of fun. I have to be up in 6 hours for work, but literally I just have to walk downstairs, so it's fine. I don't have to go anywhere. But this was great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Is there anywhere that you want people to find you online, on Twitter, or are you?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter, so you can find me there at Gertie the Dino. And I mentioned my podcast earlier, so it's the No Guilt Disney podcast. So you can find that any place you can typically find a podcast streaming.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to having you again, Teresa. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.
Thanks.
Maxwell, my friend, you're here. We did it.
We did it.
Thank you again for being here. Where can everyone find you online?
As it says below, my Twitter, there we go, handle is @CinemaXwell. My Instagram is @CinemaXwell Inc. I'll be back on the PJ Campbell Network Friday night for the Brothers Bloom watch along as Ryan Johnson month continues.
Yeah, and hopefully Ryan Johnson comes and hangs out. You know, we got a little traction last week. It's a lot of fun. But I look forward to having you, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
All right, to the Australians, my favorites. Well, one Australian and the American he kidnapped. Taylor, where can everyone find you online?
You can find both of us over at the Finely Tailored YouTube channel. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and pretty much everything else at Finely Tailored or at _Finely Tailored. I'm usually mostly on Twitter, so that's probably the best place to find me if you want to hang out.
And you can find me over at Jacob Blunden on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my letterbox. And you can also find us here next weekend on the Finely Tailored YouTube channel, where we're going to be doing live playthroughs of Spider-Man, PS4. We're also going to be doing our scores bracket with these two guys above us and Christian Smith from Take 3 Productions, where we do our scores bracket. And I'm really looking forward to that on Saturday night. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait to die. It's going to be the best. Love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, Evan. You're sleeping. You went on a safari. You survived. Now take everyone through what we've got going on the rest of the week so we can get the hell out of here.
Yeah, no, here, PJ. Here in the PJ Campbell Network, we talk about Disney attractions, and we got a bunch of stuff lined up for the week, but we're going to keep it short and simple. Tomorrow, Clone Wars Season 7 review, 5 p.m. EST, which means 2 p.m. PST, so you better watch the show and you better get on it quick. And then that also means we're doing a Simpsons watch along that Monday night as well at 10 p.m. EST, which is 7 p.m. PST. Make sure you guys are there for that. And then Famous Last Words with Pat Hogue. I'm really excited because Pat Hogue is like French Canadian, and I love French Canadians. He's gonna yell at me at some point, and you guys are doing something wrong. And Stacey Howard that Wednesday. It's gonna be fantastic. Watch along with Greatest Showman that night as well, along with the Greatest Showman re-release that Thursday, May 7th. And then on Friday, we're doing Brothers Bloom, which we've already talked about. And yeah, that's kind of it. Mario Kart premieres Saturday. We have some interesting guests lined up. Not ready to announce, but we're getting there. And thank you for having me on. You know how much I love these parks and how much they've impacted me. I've always looked into doing theme park management.
I know, man.
I love the ins and outs of it. It's something that actually can like reflect onto who I am, because I always have to be doing something at some time, and theme parks are literally just that. It is so up my alley, and I'm so glad I got to be on here and talk about some of my favorite Disney rides. So
look, man, it's always good to have you here. You know, I always want to have you here. It's weird when you're not. I like having you here, and I think that we've been doing good work the past month and a half, and our gaggle of guests that we've had along the way has helped. One of them is in the chat right now, John Kaiser. I mean, I can't thank everyone enough. Again, you spent 3 hours with us talking about Disney theme parks, and yet at the same time, it goes by very quickly, and feel very lucky that every one of you guys tuned in and enjoyed the time with us. And hopefully we continue bringing content to you guys like that. Evan, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me right here at Evan Degraff Live tomorrow, Monday, 5 p.m. EST. Jacob, what are you doing? Jacob, what are you doing? And then you guys can Tuesday, I'm interviewing Pat Hogue. Make sure you guys are there. And Kaiser is right. The best ride at Disneyland is the 6-pack ride in the parking lot. You just chug a 6 down, and then you head into the park. Absolutely blast it off your face. Never have done that, but I want to.
All right. And of course, I am PJ Campbell. You guys can find me at PJ_Campbell on Twitter and Instagram. You can find the PJ Campbell Network group over on Facebook. Come hang out, talk movies. We post everything there. And thank you guys again for all your support. And we will see you guys here tomorrow night for The Simpsons, for all the fun things we have going on. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.
Please leave this office.
Do we get any sort of souvenir?
Get out of my office!
I'll be back.
I gotta pay.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Heavy is the head that eats the crayons. I'm gonna take a nap. See you in 10 hours.
Dude, I almost had you. You almost had me. You never had me.
I like your style, dude.
End of line.